All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell. Here inside the Spoken Studios, my guys, Trevor Twidwell
What's good?
and Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 157 in full swing, full motion. We are so happy to be here with you guys this week, as we are each and every week. We got a fun-filled, packed show for you guys today. A lot of Chiefs content, a lot of NFL content, as we are going to be joined by Fox 4 sports anchor Harold Kuntz. He's going to be joining us. I believe this is the second time he's going to be with us this time around. So we had him on last year before the season kicked off. We'd love to get his thoughts, his takeaways, his viewpoints on everything going on with the Chiefs, because there's a lot of moves to be made, a lot of moves that are already been made, and we're just going to get his thoughts, his opinions, his takeaways on what to expect in free agency, the draft, trades, anything, any crazy-ass scenarios that my guy Harold Kuntz can come up with. We're going to get some of his time today, and we're really grateful for that. We have the Eddie Hour coming up. We got some other takeaways. We have our free agent wants that we want to see the Chiefs grab, whether it's a position or a particular player. We're going to give you guys those takes as well. We're going to be handing out some L's at the end of the show. But first and foremost, let me just go ahead and tell you guys that I am grateful for great friends across the board. And let me tell you why. So, a couple of weeks ago, Trevor had gotten a message. I don't know if it was on Instagram or Twitter. Maybe I think it might have been Twitter. And what do you know? It's a famous bar that is Chiefs related. We'd like to call it Arrowhead East. It's a Big Charlie's Saloon out there in Philadelphia. The address is right there on Trevor's shirt right there, 11th and McKean in South Philly, PA. We got a message from them. They told us, hey, listen, man, we watch your guys' show. We listen to your guys' show. We're big fans, and we just wanted to, let you guys know that we like your takes. It was a very frustrating time when they first hit us up, because obviously the Chiefs lost in frustrating fashion the AFC Championship, but they still showed support. They let Trevor know. They hit me up as well. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, man, I want to support these guys. I want to represent out here in Kansas City that we got family to the east in Arrowhead East and Big Charlie's. I want to buy some merch. I want to let me know where I can buy your guys t-shirts, stickers, hoodies, whatever you guys got. Well, Laura from Big Charlie's actually hit me up and said, hey, text me. I'll get you your information. We can figure that out. And I said, okay, cool. I'm really interested in some hoodies in particular. Let me know what the prices are, this. She got my information. A few days later, I'm at my office, and all of a sudden I'm looking in the mail, and I see this big, bulky box. And I open it up, and there's 2 freaking hoodies in there. And I'm sitting here, I text Laura, how much do I owe you? What the heck? I didn't even know you guys were sending them. And she's like, hey, listen, I talked to Paul, the owner. He said it's on the house. It's on him. And I just wanted to take the time and start this show off by letting them know that we are very grateful for not only, obviously, the merch that you guys sent us, and we are going to be buying more, whether you guys like it or not. I promise you we're going to be buying more merch from you guys. But just knowing that we have support from all the way out in Philadelphia with the great people at Big Charlie's, man, I couldn't be more grateful. I'm representing you guys as well today, and I just wanted to thank you guys. I wanted to start the show off and let my family know out there in Philadelphia. We love you guys. We cannot wait to go out there and hang out with you guys, have a drink, catch a game with you guys, and talk to you guys about football. I want to hear stories. I just want to hear. I want to talk to Paul. I want to talk to Laura. I want to talk to everybody at Big Charlie's. I want to know everything there is to know about Big Charlie's. I want to know about Philadelphia. I've never been, and I'm very much looking forward to that. So I wanted to cast that out there and throw that out there to our family out there at Arrowhead East. We love you guys so very much, and we thank you for all the support. I actually want to move into something that the biggest fear I have with our show in particular is having a repeat segment. I don't want to have those. I don't want to ever have the same segment over and over again to where you guys start to tune out. And I promised myself going into this week, when I was going over my notes, when I was going over what I wanted to talk about and rant on at the very beginning of the show, there was several different things I wanted to go with. And as the week was going on, earlier in the week, we saw our head coach, Kansas City Chiefs head coach Andy Reid, come out and address the media for the first time for the new league year. And the combine's going on, and free agency is about to commence, and all these things are about to start taking shape for the next season. And I'm seeing reports, I'm seeing quotes. I hadn't seen the video yet because I actually didn't get to see Andy Reid live address the media. And then I finally heard it for myself because I didn't want to take the quotes too literal. I wanted to hear him say these words himself, and I actually have it saved here, and I'm going to play it for you guys as to what Andy Reid started off with his first comments to the media for the new league year.
Just want to start off, appreciate all you being out here, and then two is that this whole thing with Eric Bieniemy that's been written has gotten kind of fabricated. We were on vacation, and over the 2 weeks I came back, and all of a sudden it was that I didn't like Eric, and Eric didn't like me, and Pat Mahomes, and everybody else, and that's not the case. I mean, we all get along good, and I'm glad he's back with us and rolling. So I thought he'd potentially get a head coaching job, which I would have been happy with too, but that's not how it worked out. So anyway, I just want to put that to rest. The rest of the time is yours. Go ahead and fire away.
Okay, so let me first say that I understand what Andy Reid's doing here. And if you've been living under a rock or you've not been paying attention to anything that's been going on in quote-unquote Chiefs Kingdom over the last few weeks, Andy Reid is addressing an article that came out from, I would like to very much consider them friends of mine, people that I've trusted now for a decade. We've addressed this on our show to start off the show a couple of times over the last month. And the article specifically states there were rifts and issues with Eric Bieniemy, with Patrick Mahomes. There was some turmoil going on, in particularly with the AFC Championship at halftime, before the halftime, and after halftime. And there was a detailed sequence of events that were put in that article. Now, Andy Reid came out and addressed something that really had nothing to do with the article. And people were sitting here saying, well, this puts the article to bed. This proves that it's false. This proves that it's not true, that what was said in that article can't be true. As Trevor alluded to last week even, every single thing in that article that could have taken place, and they still could have worked things out and still found a way to work together, get this contract done for Eric Bieniemy, bring him back for one more year. But what I don't like from Andy Reid in this particular comment, when he starts off by saying that there's things being said about Eric Bieniemy hates me, and him and I don't get along. He hates Patrick Mahomes. They don't get along. That was never stated in the article. And I think what this is, I don't think what this is. I know what this is. This is called damage control. They want to try to put this to bed. They want to make it hyperbolic. They want to make extremes and throw extremes out there to make it sound so ridiculous. So that way no one is paying attention to it anymore. And it's genius. I got to say, Andy Reid is so good. I even put this on the Spoken on our Facebook group. I said, Andy Reid is so great at saying so much and saying nothing at the same time. And that's what that was. So for anybody to take this comment and take these statements from Andy Reid and say, yep, that's it. That proves it. There was zero problems. Eric Bieniemy, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, there were never any issues. Answer me this. If that's the case, let's say that's 100% true and everything Andy Reid just stated in that was 100% the case and there was never a problem. Why is Eric Bieniemy on his second consecutive one-year deal? Well, Lance, he was supposed to be a head coach. He thought he was going to get a head coaching job, so the Chiefs don't want to lock him up long term. Do you guys realize how many coaches that get jobs each and every year have long-term deals? The teams will let them out of those contracts, and the team doesn't suffer any consequences for letting them out of those contracts. So that's not a viable excuse. That's not a legitimate excuse. And not just have the Chiefs kept him on a one-year deal in back-to-back years, it's been quiet. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, it is saying something when they don't say something. See, 2 years ago, not even 2 full years ago, we got an announcement from the Chiefs on Twitter and on Facebook that they had extended Brett Veach and Andy Reid. This was news. This was something they put out there. When they just hired Matt Nagy, they posted that to their Twitter account, to their Facebook page, to their social media platforms. It was news. Don't you think it would be news if your OC, your offensive coordinator, who's already been on a one-year deal, who had an expiring contract for the second consecutive year, would get retained? Don't you think that would be something that should be announced? Especially when there are no issues, and this is your guy, and this is the guy that you wanted all along? And whether you want to address it or not, or acknowledge it or not, the fact is that after this, and after after Eric Bieniemy got signed to his 1-year deal, and Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, and others confirmed this, the very next day Matt Nagy was signed. And the first words of his first press conference of the new league year, he starts it off by trying to diffuse it. I can't help but sit here and look at that and say, this is 100% damage control. They're trying to put a blanket on something that is still very much on fire. Now, I'm glad, and I posted this. I've said this on the show 100 more. I'll say it 100 more times. I'll post it 100 more times. The fact that the Chiefs have this much head coaching experience on their staff and Eric Bieniemy attached to it, who should have already been a head coach, that excites me. But to know that this is how this situation is being handled tells me that there may be even bigger problems than I know of.
Or the fact that he started off from the very top of the presser to get it out of the way so he doesn't get asked any more questions.
Exactly.
And the fact that it's been that big of a story even on their end, for them to have to come out and address it first. You know, if he pretty much said, first and foremost, I just want to thank you all for being here, excited, blah, 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 and then dove right into that article, dove right into that controversy. And you know, the fact that it was a very discreet meeting between Andy Reid and you know, Coach, there's a lot of surrounding things around it that definitely make it seem like that's its own set of occurrence that was taking place, other than all the other hirings and the guys they were bringing in and departures as well. Even the departures were all mentioned and everything. So there's definitely some. I mean, it's behind us now at this point, but the fact that he started off the presser with that, wanted to get at it because he knows. I mean, that's strategic. He wants to avoid any questions about it. No, he doesn't want anybody pushing back on it. So he wanted to make it sound as ridiculous as possible, so no one questions it.
And here's the thing that confused me and Eddie. I'd like to, if you have any thoughts on this, I'd love to hear it. If this, because all I heard all these last couple of weeks was it was from an editorial board, so therefore it's from the get-go it's bullshit, right? That's all I kept hearing. For Andy Reid to have to come out and address it, that tells me there is validity to it because of the fact that if this is just from some horseshit website or just from some fans, do you really think that Andy Reid's going to address
Twitter,
it?
Yeah, some Twitter beef shit that's going on.
I would say yes, because it was trending on Twitter. It caught the attention of so many high media guys. And players obviously were tweeting about it. I'm sure they call Andy Reid and it's like, hey, did you seen this bullshit of the story or yada, yada, yada. I'm sure Andy Reid read it. It was like, oh, that's bullshit. And that's why he came out, because we all knew that was going to be the first question that was going to be asked about Eric Bieniemy and like the relationship he has with Patrick Mahomes and himself. So I understand how or why he came out and those were the first words out of his mouth, because he didn't want to deal with the whole. He just came out, said what he knew about it, and we're moving on.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's fair. What I'll say to that, though, in counter, is the fact that there are other rumors that have been spiraling around the Chiefs that have nothing to do with Eric Bieniemy that Andy has never addressed. You know why? Because they're ridiculous. They're without basis. Like the whole Patrick Mahomes telling his family, "You're not coming to games anymore." And now Patrick Mahomes did address it because it was a personal matter.
Granted, that story didn't directly involve Andy Reid.
I get it. My point, though, is you know these things are brought to their attention. And if there's something he feels that he needs to step in and say because it's coming from someone that has enough credence, that's the point I'm trying to make here. Because you got to understand, this editorial board are the same people that have broken other stories. Ironically, Andy Reid coming to Kansas City 10 years ago. Yeah. That's the point I'm trying to make, is this is coming from a source that is not a verified account, but are people that have actually broke stories in the past. And so that's why Andy's addressing it. Because it's coming from people that did garner that type of attention. Because if you're just some schmuck on Twitter, people are going to look at your account and go, okay, this guy's got 115 followers. He's clearly trying to get attention. They have almost 20,000 followers on Twitter. These people have been doing this for some time. And I know these guys. I've met them.
Yeah, for me, man.
I've actually been attached to this story now. People are saying I'm the one that wrote it.
I'm just at the point now where it's like, it's behind us.
Yeah.
Whether there is truth to that article, I'm sure there's always beefs lingering and going on in locker rooms. That's going to happen, especially between a quarterback. If there's a disagreement between a quarterback and OC, that's one of the first things that happens on any team, regardless how good the OC or the quarterback is. That's one of the first rifts that will happen, because that's the most costly mistakes you can make is between those two and the miscommunication between those two. So It's behind us, man. EB's back. I love EB. I'm glad he's back at this point. I would have been okay if above all names, above all coach names, it does not matter to me. I want to collect W's. I want to get rings for this franchise because I love this franchise. If Andy Reid feels that EB is the best guy for the job to bring him back this year and have another shot at this thing, I'm on board. You know what I mean? That's and we've done it with EB before. So I mean, he has the track record of doing that, and I want to see him have success further in his career as well. And maybe if that did happen, maybe this is Andy Reid and him had that meeting, and this is EB's best chance to change his stars. Maybe they had that kind of relationship and they communicated it through and men worked it out. So be it, man. I just want to win some games.
Yep. Now, I actually do want to transition to something that's a lot more up to date, and I think it's a lot more valid at this time when it comes to the Chiefs adding talent to their roster, because they obviously have a ton of talent on the coaching staff. We know that there's some wants and needs out there that the Chiefs are going to have to address in the next couple of weeks, in the coming months. So we got word yesterday from Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, and a few other sources that the Cowboys are looking to move on. More than likely are going to have to release Amari Cooper, wide receiver Amari Cooper. His cap hit, or I think he's owed around $20 million coming up, and I think that they're looking to extend Michael Gallup and their tight end Schultz. I think they're going to try to add some other pieces to this. Now, you can look at this and say it's pretty sad that you essentially have to move on from Amari Cooper just because of the fact that you gave Ezekiel Elliott that horrific contract 3 years ago. That is almost literally the single reason why you have to move on from such a talent like Amari Cooper. Yeah. As soon as I heard this, I texted Trevor and Eddie and I said, guys, my free agent want list just dramatically changed. And we're going to get to that in just a little bit. But I just want to give some quick thoughts on the Amari Cooper situation, because if and when Amari Cooper is released, he is clearly the best wide receiver available, and that is saying something, because this current free agent class of guys out there right now that are majority of them are late to early 20s, late to mid 20s, yeah, and are all going to be very effective top tier wide receivers for whatever team they play for. And I think he's the best currently, if in fact he ends up getting released like we're anticipating, because I know the Cowboys would like to get a trade, yeah, but no one's trading for that contract coming up. So I think he's going to get released for sure. But not only is he the best current free agent or potential free agent wide receiver out there in the market right now, he, to me, is clearly the best fit for the Chiefs. Now, there are other good fits. Let's not make a mistake here. Allen Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mike Williams, Chris Godwin, all of them would fit this offense seamlessly. But of all of them, if I had to look at perfect fit, it is Amari Cooper, because of his route abilities, yeah, because of the fact I know he's had some hand issues, but so's Tyreek Hill, and we know how perfect he is for this offense. Even Travis Kelce's had drop problems. Amari Cooper, with a 6'1", 200-pound frame,
he's a receiver,
great receiver for this offense. Yes, he can do anything you can. He's a downfield threat. He's quick enough. He's a downfield threat. He's tall. He's 3 inches taller than Tyreek Hill. Yes, he's fast, like I said, and he's an incredible get 5-10 yards possession receiver.
He's durable. A top 3 route runner in this league, man.
And that's the other thing. And if the Chiefs are going to be spending money this offseason, we all know this. They're going to open up cap space. They've already been opening up cap space. We're going to see that more as time goes on. I think that the biggest position they need to be spending money on in free agency, the two biggest, are defensive end or edge and wide receiver. Because wide receiver is one of those, at this time around, it's a perfect fit for the Chiefs where they open up this cap space and there's so many good wide receivers out there that are available. This is the perfect opportunity for the Chiefs to go out there and spend money like they did back in 2018 when they went and got Sammy Watkins. Amari Cooper would be a significant upgrade from Sammy Watkins. Significant upgrade. Now, I put this out here on my Twitter page. I put this out here on the Spoken group about my thoughts on Amari Cooper, and there was a lot of people out there chiming in and saying, well, they're concerned about his health. Here's the thing. People were talking about his health, and I know, Eddie, you had some thoughts. I want to get your thoughts on Amari Cooper because I want to actually respond to them. When it comes to his health, this is something that I almost found hilarious, because it is kind of funny that people are talking about this and then championing for guys like Chris Godwin, who's just suffered a significant injury just in December. Amari Cooper has played 7 seasons in the NFL, 4 with the Raiders and 3 with the Cowboys. He's missed 5 games, and 2 of those games were due to COVID this year. So he wasn't even injured. He was out for health regulations. So if anything, Amari Cooper, yeah, you could say, well, he's been banged up. Okay, first of all, who hasn't been banged up in the league? Second of all, if you can play through injury, that's the kind of guy I want. I'd much rather have the guy that's banged up a lot but plays through it than the guy that gets hurt and is gone for 5-6 games at a time. I'd much rather have him than a Sammy Watkins type. And look how great Sammy Watkins was for the Chiefs in 2019. How important he was down that stretch.
Pivotal player. Yeah.
Okay, but he would miss 5-6 games a season. Amari Cooper doesn't. He's missed 5 games his entire career. So although, yes, he is banged up, he has a little ankle here and there, he has a little shoulder here and there, a little sprained wrist here and there, dude plays through it. And again, the emphasis of why I'm so big on him coming here is because he's a wide receiver one that would be a third option in the offense. And I was talking to my guy, Aaron Passow, big-time Cowboys fan. He was talking to me yesterday about this, about Amari Cooper in the offense that he was currently playing in. He said this to me. Cooper played in an offense that had no idea how to scheme its most talented receivers. I hate to say it, but getting out of Dallas might be the best thing for his career, depending on where he lands. KC would be an insanely good fit. This is a guy that pays attention to the Cowboys more than even Skip Bayless. Yeah. Now, if you look at since 2017, which is when Chris Godwin got drafted, when Mike Williams got drafted, and Allen Robinson was midway through his career. Since 2017, Amari Cooper has more receptions than Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, and Allen Robinson. He has more yards than Allen Robinson, or Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, and Allen Robinson. He has more touchdowns than all 3 of those guys, and he's also missed fewer games than all of them. Chris Godwin's only missed 9. Mike Williams has missed 8. Allen Robinson's missed 23, and I like Allen Robinson, but he's been very injury-prone through his career. Amari Cooper has only missed 5 games, guys.
Yeah.
So, and we know that Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, Allen Robinson, they're 3 of the most coveted receivers out there. And he's been better than all 3 of them.
He has far more to his game than all of those guys. He just does.
Yeah.
He can do everything. He's a top 3 route runner in this league. Arguably, it looks like the best at sometimes. He's right up there with the Stephon Diggs and the Devontae Adams and Keenan Allen's, all those great technical. But he's not just a technically sound route runner. He's very athletic. He's very strong. He's a bulky guy, but he can get up and get the high point balls as well. He's a good ball tracker. He's good in the red zone. He has a great open field speed. The dude has everything you need in a wide receiver 1. He would be our wide receiver 2. Right. He's by far the best option out of all these, now that he's most likely going to become a free agent. Granted, he is the most expensive, most likely. But, I mean, I understand why people are attracted to the Mike Williamses and those overwhelmingly dominant presence types guys, the really tall guys. But Mike Williams has also been banged up a lot in his career. Almost every season he's been banged up. He's missed games. And he's kind of a one-trick pony, if we're all being honest. He's not very talented. He's very good at running downfield, getting the high-point balls. Not very good with the ball in his hands, though. The Chiefs love receivers that are good with the ball after the catch, right? That's why I like Juju more, because I felt Juju had a lot more of that. But now there's word on the street that Juju might stay with the Steelers again. They might sign him and keep him there, which is fine.
Yeah.
But the Calvin Ridley's out there, great with the ball after the catch. There's a lot of other guys. I mean, Godwin, obviously, if he is a possibility for the Chiefs, that would be a great one. That would be my second one, probably. And then, obviously, Allen Robinson. A more talented guy in my mind than a Mike Williams and the other guys like that, because he can do more with the ball in his hands. And he can run more of the route tree in my mind than a Mike Williams. Mike Williams is great, though. Don't get me wrong, but I think Amari Cooper for sure tops the list for me now that this news is coming out that he's more than likely going to be a free agent. Yeah, man, he does it all, bro. Like he would be the Sammy Watkins role on steroids. You know what I mean? Like the fact, like I texted you, like. If the Chiefs find a way to get him and bring him in here alongside Tyreek, and we manage to keep McCole and some other pieces around, the defenses across the league are fucked, man. Like, imagine that lineup across the field from it. That's just defensive coordinators would just be. I mean, what do? You just throw your hands in the air. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, you're not going to get much of an argument back from me from the opposition of that. I mean, I think Amari for sure would be the best option going here.
Man, at wide receiver. Amari Cooper, I see why everybody's all hyped up and stuff like that about Amari Cooper. He's still yet to be released, so we don't even know. This is just, I guess you could say, a quote-unquote rumor coming out of Dallas. Still nothing official yet. But my thing about Amari Cooper is the inconsistency in the games for him. He'll show up for like 4 games, let's say, 4 games. Disappear for another 3-4 games and not do anything, not do shit. And then he'll come back another 3-2 games and then again disappear for another 3-2 games. So that's the inconsistency I have an issue with him. If he's going to come in here and, help Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and kind of take those targets away, I don't know. It would be too expensive for a project at that point, because he's a wide receiver one. I doubt he'll come in here wanting to be a third receiving option for this team, because he can go somewhere else and be the first option automatically. So that's the biggest, I guess, the biggest obstacle in that whole situation with Amari Cooper wanting to come here, being the third option for this team, when he can go somewhere else and be the first option. I think that's the biggest obstacle, and obviously for him to be a third receiving option here in Kansas City, he's going to be too expensive. That's why I like more like a Allen Robinson, more like a Juju, because they're going to be more on a 1-year deal, kind of prove it deal, and kind of test the market next year. As to what the reports have saying, they want to do 1-year deals so they can test the market next year, and then get paid, get that bank. So I want to bank on those guys, because obviously contract years are undefeated. So if you put those two guys on a 1-year deal, I like those options better than Amari Cooper, because I don't know what I'm going to get out of Amari Cooper, and I don't know if he wants to come in here and be a third receiving option.
That's fair, and I will agree with. I agree that from a viewpoint of the outside looking in, you're like, why would he want to come in here, play third fiddle, not be the guy? That's fair. A couple things here. First of all, in Dallas, CeeDee Lamb was the guy that they took him in the first round. He was the wide receiver they were focusing on. Schultz was getting tons of yards. Yep. Gallup was getting looks. Targets. Zeke was getting his usage as the season went on. They had a ton of weapons of the Cowboys, and Amari Cooper was still performing. To the inconsistency part of this, here's a couple things. You would say that Tyreek Hill's a pretty consistent receiver, right? Mm-hmm. You wouldn't say that.
Consistent?
He's been the best receiver in football since 2016.
There's games that he doesn't do it. Like he probably had 10 yards.
Right. That's every receiver though.
That would be inconsistent.
Okay, but I'm saying then what is consistent?
Not everybody's gonna have Cooper Kupps here this year.
Okay, yeah. My point in this is that Tyreek Hill has been one of the most productive receivers for the last 5 years. If not, yeah. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Consistency and production usually go hand in hand, because you can't produce unless you're a consistent player. So last season, Tyreek Hill had 8 games of less than 60 or fewer receiving yards. Amari Cooper only had 1 more than that. So you equate that with, given the fact he had all that talent in Dallas, and then if you were to bring him to Kansas City, the fact is you're basically bringing in 1 for 1. Like you have all that talent in Dallas. He still was one of the best receivers in football last season. Amari Cooper was when he played, and then you bring him over to Kansas City, he would still be that guy. And like we were talking yesterday, so in his career, Amari Cooper averages 74 catches for 1,011 yards and 7 touchdowns. If you span that out to a 12-year career, he would finish with 888 catches, 12,132 yards, and 84 touchdowns. That would put him 24th all-time in receptions, 27th all-time in receiving yards, and 20th all-time in touchdowns. So he'd be a top 25 receiver of all time statistically if you just went off of his averages. You're right. There are games he doesn't have big blowout performances. But that is wide receivers across the board. Davante Adams, it took that man 3 years to even become what Davante Adams is. It took him 3 full seasons.
Look at DeAndre Hopkins' season last year.
And here's another thing we have to consider is that we all know that great wide receivers don't need great quarterbacks more than great quarterbacks need great wide receivers in this league. Dak Prescott's a damn good quarterback now. But the first couple of seasons of his career, especially when Amari first came to Dallas, there was a lot of inconsistencies with Dak. Not to mention Derek Carr, who he used to play for originally.
I was going to say that the additional Raiders
the inconsistency from quarterback to Amari Cooper is also a thing. You put him in an Andy Reid offense with Patrick Mahomes, you're going to tell me right now he wouldn't excel better than he has ever excelled in his career. And again, he's already been a top 10 to 15 wide receiver in his career before having a top 5 quarterback in his career. He's never had that. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about a lot of these receivers. Even if you don't want Amari Cooper, let's say that's not the guy you want. Let's say you go with Mike Williams. Let's say you go with Chris Godwin. Let's say you go with Allen Robinson or Juju Smith-Schuster. For the majority of their careers, they've been playing with bad quarterbacks or not top 5 quarterbacks. You come to Kansas City, there is incentive to that because, again, as we talked about, the 1-year deal is something unique for this year because the cap is going to go up dramatically in 2023.
And for me, man,
so some of these young superstar wide receivers that want to go out there and get Super Bowl success or a chance at a Super Bowl while performing at a high level, while getting 1-year $15 to $17 million deal, you maximize on that, and then next year you're getting yourself a $4 or $5 million deal for $115 million. Because these guys are still all so young. Amari Cooper just turned 27 last summer. So this dude is in the prime of his career. He gets himself a 1-2 year deal with the Chiefs for anywhere from $15 to $30 million, which the Chiefs could absolutely fit. He goes out there and has himself a 85 reception, 950 to 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns, gets himself in the Super Bowl. He's getting himself a contract with someone else, and the Chiefs got what they wanted out of him. Yeah. It's perfect.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. For me, man, I want the best players. I don't give a shit. Like, if Amari Cooper's available, I mean, I know Devontae Adams is pretty much untouchable for us because that's going to be out of our range probably. But if Amari Cooper is doable and we can make that work, I want Amari Cooper because he's the best on the list. And if that doesn't work out, who's the next best? You know, that's if I was a GM, that's how I work it, man. I mean, I know numbers obviously come into play and motivation, and like you said, like 1-year deals motivated guys, contract years and all that stuff. That definitely motivates players to give us their best performances. But I want the best performances from the best players. I want the most talented guy, and Amari Cooper to me it's not even a question. When he becomes a free agent, he's going to be the outside of like maybe a couple other guys, but I think he would be the best talent as far as wide receiver free agency out there, and I would want that to be my second to third option in this offense, and that would just make things that much more difficult to stop this offense in Kansas City, man.
Yeah, so I understand that the inconsistencies are there from week to week, but that is just the reality of NFL wide receivers. Because, again, defense to defense is schemed differently. You can run into a Bill Belichick and says, yeah, I'm just going to make sure Amari Cooper doesn't do anything today, and there's really nothing he can do about it.
And there's a good chance we haven't even seen the best of Amari Cooper yet.
Right.
That's still a very, like you said, he's played. I mean, Dak Prescott, no doubt, is becoming a very good top-tier quarterback in this league. Derek Carr has had moments where he's looked like a top-tier quarterback. He's had stints where he's played amazing for a stretch of weeks. But those guys also are very inconsistent in their own way. You know, if he comes and plays with a Patrick Mahomes and defense has got to worry about a Tyreek Hill and a Travis Kelce along with Amari Cooper, that's going to open up so much more for him, man. You know what I mean? So,
and it's also exciting
it's a great
to know,
spot for him.
It's also exciting to think about the fact that with all these weapons that are going to be accounted for, this also going to be year 2 for this offensive line, who was already great last season. You add that with Matt Nagy coming in here with maybe some new ideas, new wrinkles. This is going to be the most complete offense we've ever seen the Chiefs have in the Mahomes era. And you also have to consider the fact that I know people are afraid of money, but we have to understand that the cap is really a myth. Mm-hmm. I don't want to sit here and say teams don't have to abide by it to a certain degree, but when it comes to adding veteran free agents, when it comes to going and getting guys that you want to fit under your cap, you can 100% do it. And the Chiefs have a beautiful situation on their hands. I mean, just Patrick Mahomes alone, he restructures his deal, moves his money to fully guaranteed or non-guaranteed money from his signing bonus. That opens up $22 million in cap for the Chiefs. Tyreek, once this extension comes down, and we don't know the particular numbers, we do know it's going to happen. That's going to open up about $13.5 million for the Chiefs right there. That's $36 million. Let's say they give Chris Jones a 2-3 year extension. That's giving the Chiefs another $10+ million. Joe Thuney, if he gets an extension or a restructure, that saves the Chiefs over $10 million. So you're looking at $50 to $70 million the Chiefs could very much have in free agency. That didn't even mention cutting Frank Clark, which I do believe is going to happen. The Chiefs are going to have tons of money. So once that happens, they're going to look at Amari Cooper and say, oh, you want 1 year $19 million?
Yeah.
Here's your check. Like, that's how it's going to go. And it's not ridiculous to look at it that way because, again, there's other free agents we're going to talk about. I'm trying to keep my list a little realistic here because I know a lot of people are out here looking at, I want this guy, and it's all the top-tier free agents. That's not going to happen. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you one in particular that I can guarantee the Chiefs are not going to get, and it's only because of his position. We'll get to that in just a little bit after we have our guy Harold Kuntz on in just a minute. But the potential of what the Chiefs can do this offseason, I think, is more exciting than any offseason previous in the Mahomes era. Because you did see them spend money on Sammy Watkins. You did see them spend money on Anthony Hitchens. You did see them trade assets, valuable assets, and then spend money on Frank Clark. Those things did happen. But a lot of those guys, if you look at it, weren't looked at as star players. Even Frank Clark, he had 13 sacks before he came to Kansas City the year before with Seattle Seahawks. But he wasn't even the best pass rusher on his team. And he benefited off of the defensive scheme he was in. So Frank Clark, although there was a lot of expectation on him, He wasn't the best pass rusher on his previous team, and he wasn't the best pass rusher on his current team. So there's differences here. If you add an Amari Cooper, you can make a case that he's the best, most complete receiver you have on the team. I would still take Tyreek Hill, obviously, because he's more talented. But Amari Cooper has things to his game, just from a physicality standpoint, that Tyreek Hill doesn't have. He doesn't have the body and the frame and the route running like an Amari Cooper does. He's a complete package deal. That's why, to me, he has got to be at the top of the list of free agent wide receivers the Chiefs want. And again, I think we all can agree the Chiefs are going to add somebody, just a matter of who, not if. It's going to be who and when. That's what I'm looking at right now. Now, on the defensive side of things, man, and again, we'll give our list in just a little bit, but I want to address this. I know there are people out there that are still considering the fact that Frank Clark could take less to stay. But to me, and I've said this to Trevor before, the taking less aspect, I'm interested in what less is.
I think that's the most likely situation that's going to happen, though.
I completely disagree, and here's why. Yeah. Because if you're talking about, let's say Frank Clark agrees to go down to $12 to $13 million, that's still $12 to $13 million for a guy that has one sack in his last 198 defensive snaps. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because there's also $29 million that is currently owed to Chris Jones, who has 0 career sacks in his playoff career. The man's played in 7, 8 playoff games?
Unacceptable.
It's unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
So the Chiefs have to hit defensively even more than they do offensively. Chiefs have a right tackle issue. They don't have a right tackle right now. Mike Rimmers, not on the roster. Lucas Niang probably won't play this year. They have 0 right tackles right now. They've had Andrew Wiley fill in. Luckily, the middle and the left side of the offensive line was so great, you didn't really notice it. You know, they were just so awesome everywhere else. But the Chiefs have a real problem at right tackle. They have a real problem at defensive end. They have a real problem at edge. We don't even know what defense they're going to run next year. There's rumors about them running a 3-4. They've been running a 4-3 since Spags has been here. That's his defense. So we have no idea. They have to hit on defense. We could sit here and gawk and fantasize on these receivers, and trust me, I want to, because I would love to see an Amari Cooper or an Allen Robinson or Chris Godwin or one of those guys playing with Patrick Mahomes. I would love that. I think it's a reality.
Yeah.
But those are wants. Those aren't needs. This offense can right now re-sign Byron Pringle, have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and still be a top 5 offense. That is a truth, because it just happened. It literally just happened. They will do it again if they want to. That's not going to happen, but what is more important and what is more imperative is them crushing it on the defensive side, and I think that Frank Clark is the first step. Now, Anthony Hitchens was, but we all knew he was gone because you already saw his replacement. Nick Bolton was already there. We didn't have Frank Clark's replacement. Kane Doe hasn't really played at all, and he doesn't look like a guy that you're going to hitch your wagon to. He's a 4th-round pick. We'll see what happens. Mike Dana's a really good rotational piece, but he's not going to be your next great pass rusher. So this is why it is so important for the Chiefs to get a guy that can adequately replace Frank Clark, younger, stronger, more consistent, cheaper potentially. But again, I'm willing to spend the money necessary to facilitate a guy that you can trust on the defensive side that's going to get you that adequate pressure at the quarterback position. This is why I proposed Josh Allen to get traded from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Will it happen? Probably not. But the Chiefs Ian Rappaport and other reporters have said the Chiefs are hell-bent on making a splash on the defensive side. Yeah. You want to talk about a splash? It's going out there and getting a free agent defensive edge rushers, plenty out there. Von Miller's out there. Melvin Ingram's out there. Dante Feller's out there. Dante Feller's out there. Yeah. There's several guys out there that we can address for the need, but I don't think Frank Clark's an old guy, Trevor. I want to hear your thoughts, though, as to why you think Frank Clark is, why you would see that as a realistic scenario.
I just think, I don't think there's real, I just think there's a good reason to think that they still want to hold on to him, because I think this team likes what he does. This team likes when he's healthy. He does produce, but he hasn't. I know. As far as a fan and sitting there watching what he is good at what he does as far as like setting the edge, but we need more stats from him. We need more sacks. We need more things from him. So I just think that, I don't know, man. I just have a feeling that the Chiefs are going to find a way to keep him around. I personally don't want to, but I just think that him being familiar with the scheme, I think he has a good relationship with Spags. I think that matters. I don't. There's not like a really good argument to why, because he hasn't performed up to par from what his contract is. But I just think that it's more of a feeling than like a statistical reason or an emotional reason, or I just feel like that's something that the Chiefs would do. But if they move on, that's the move I want them to make, because I would like to see someone same age or younger that is willing to produce more and maybe have a little more of a chip on their shoulder to prove themselves, or making like a trade for like a Josh Allen, guys that we discussed on the show before. That would be the move I would love to make and see. Or even another veteran in this league that would, we've seen what Melvin Ingram did as soon as he came in, so bring a guy back like that, go in to get another edge rusher like a Chandler Jones or someone like that. I would take a veteran like that because he has the resume to show that he produces, and obviously he can produce. So guys like that, I would just want someone. Like I've always said, my motto is, I just want to win games. I want the players. I want the best players on the field at all times. Who's the best at that job? Who do we believe can perform the best at that position? If it's not Frank Clark, he needs to go. You know what I mean? So, but I do think that there is a scenario, a decent chance where he is still in the Chiefs uniform next year, just because he fits regardless of what we think about him, what his numbers show, he fits this scheme really, really well. He does. And he's good at what he does. He's good at setting the edge and helping Chris Jones. But Chris Jones, honestly, has been underperforming more for me than Frank Clark has. Chris Jones is supposed to be the guy, man. And he's had way too many opportunities and having quarterbacks in his hands. He's not finishing plays. That to me is bullshit. And Chris Jones has got to be better. As good as he is at getting pressures, you got to finish plays, right? And Frank Clark's been a big part of helping Chris Jones get that. And they both contribute to each other. But I think Frank Clark's been doing his job fairly well enough to where I think he can still be in a Chiefs uniform next year. But if we find a better option, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm not opposed of letting him go or cutting him. Potentially trading him if you can get anything out of it, which I doubt. But
that's a thing too.
Yeah, so if the Chiefs can potentially trade him and get something out of it that's worth it for either this draft or next year's draft, I would do it just for the simple fact that this past 2 years, honestly, it's like a downhill for Frank Clark. He has his moments. I believe this just past season he had his best rating ever in his NFL career. So, yeah, ever since that 2019 season where we won the Super Bowl, Frank Clark has pretty much done nothing. People can sit there and argue, it's like, well, he contributes to this and that and this and that, fits the scheme. There's really no contribution from Frank Clark that I've seen in the past few years that warrant him a position with the Kansas City Chiefs in the future. I just don't see it. But if the Chiefs decide, like, hey, we want to keep you in, he takes a lot, drastically a lot less money, I wouldn't mind it. But like Trevor said, I wouldn't mind either drafting a guy there, getting somebody young, or even a veteran who's known for that position, who has success in his previous years, who can still give you something. Not what his prime was, but can potentially still give you something.
Right.
And that would help Chris Jones tremendously, because then the offensive line has to respect that the edge.
Well, bringing Melvin Ingram back, I think, would be a no-brainer move for me.
Yeah.
I think. Obviously, Melvin Ingram's going to want to explore his.
Yeah, it's still what he wants,
Yeah.
But at the end, I wouldn't mind bringing Ingram back. I don't care if they bring back Frank Clark.
Well, do you think
really.
it makes more sense for the Chiefs to let Frank Clark walk than it does to? Because I don't. There's not going to be much trade equity.
No, they have to cut him.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's
The Chiefs are going to save. The Chiefs can save anywhere from $13 to $19 million by cutting him. Now they can designate him for a June 1st cut.
Yeah.
But that money doesn't come into play because if they cut him now, it's $13 million.
Yeah.
That they save. If they cut him on June 1st, the designated cut on June 1st, it's $19 and a half.
But at that point,
You want that, but you don't want to wait
there's
that
a lot of
long.
bodies already moved around across the league at that point.
So I would say just cut ties now. I know it sucks you don't get that additional $6 million. Cut ties now, get the $13 million, add it to every restructure, other cuts you want to do, other signings you want to do, and just add that cap space.
I'm just saying, for me,
That's to me when Frank Clark would be as most valuable as helping the Chiefs.
Yeah, just
with
for the
cap.
optics of it, I think if he was for sure, and everyone was sold, like in the front office, and Brett Veach and everybody was sold that they were going to cut him, I think it would have been done already at this point with the Hitchens around the same time as the Hitchens move, because they obviously knew Hitchens was gone. They pulled the trigger pretty damn quick on that. I felt like if they felt that same way about Frank Clark, there's obviously discussions going on whether they're going to keep him or not. Obviously, that's how it goes. But I think if they were going to pull the trigger on that, I think they would have gotten that out of the way now and
It's
just
still
kind of pull
so
that
early,
Band-Aid
though.
off.
It's still so early.
It is, but I just think if they were as confident as you are that he's probably going to be gone, I feel like that would have been done.
Well,
by now.
and also we have to consider the fact that there's things off the field he's dealing with still.
Sure.
He's still going to get suspended for these multiple gun charges in
Possibly.
California. I don't even think it's a debate. Is it going to be for a full season? No, it's going to probably be for 2 to 4
hasn't
games.
got a trial yet, so there's a lot of things
do
that
the
could
Chiefs
be
really,
true or false.
again, it all comes back to the origin of this keeping him and restructuring him. If you give him $12 million and let's say he misses 2 to 4 games due to a suspension, and we all know he always suffers from his stomach ailments, he ends up missing 5 to 10 games this year, and you're paying him because again, throughout his career, 43 games here with the Chiefs, 18.5 sacks. He's made almost $2 million per game that he's played with the Chiefs over the last couple of seasons, and he has a lower sack percentage per snap than Dee Ford did in his career. So, do you really want to put up with that is what I'm asking. Is he going to give you what justifies even a pay restructure?
And are we confident enough we can go find a proper replacement?
I feel more confident they can go get that.
If we do replace him, it will not be by drafting a guy. It'll be by going and get another proven commodity in this league. But we thought Melvin Ingram for sure was going to be here when he visited here, but he left and he went to the Steelers. You know what I mean? So could
on my
that
list,
be
I
a
do
possible
have
scenario?
a free agent that I think would fit this team.
I got some.
I like it.
Will it happen? I doubt it, but
well, and to that point that you brought up about Frank Clark trading for a guy, is that what you just said about trading for a guy or an asset?
Just finding a proper replacement if we do let him walk.
Yes, that to me, that's a.
We'll have
to
money,
me, I'm more
obviously.
confident they can do that than hoping that in year 5, Frank Clark is showing me something that or year 4 that he's showing me something he didn't do
replace.
in the previous 3 seasons.
I'm just saying. I think we got to explore both ideas that. There is a good chance, I think, that he does restructure and sticks around, and we can still go get somebody else. I think that's also a possibility too. Maybe not a high-profile player, but another Melvin Ingram type player that can come in and contribute alongside him, be a good rotational guy. I don't know, man. It just depends on putting myself in the mind of Brett Veach and what he thinks is best for this team. Is it Frank Clark? I don't think so. I think it is better that we go explore other options and find other guys that are a little more hungry than him and that are willing to, put a little more effort in on certain plays. I think Frank Clark is one of the best at setting the edge in this league. He's definitely helped set up other guys to make plays, but he's got to make plays in particular. That's just been the most frustrating thing for me. We can't be bottoms in the league at sacks and want to bring all the same guys back.
he just can't finish he can't tackle for some
It's
reason.
him and Chris Jones, the same shit, man. They're both incredible athletes. They're both dominating
But
forces.
they just can't finish the
And
fucking
that falls in the head of, and we've talked about this before, that falls in the head of Spags as well, too. That's practice. That's reps. That's guys not finishing plays. Regardless if you think you're going to get penalized for hitting a quarterback late. I don't give a shit, man. You drag whatever body you have in your hands to the ground. You don't let them go. And that's been a problem for this entire defense, which is why we're bottoms in the league at sacks. And if we're bottoms in the league at sacks, I don't want to bring that same crew back. Someone's got to change. Something's got to change. Body's got to rotate. Bring someone else that's willing to make sacks and make plays.
Our guys over at Arrowhead Live, who I respect dramatically, Grant and all those guys over there, they posted just recently, I think actually it may have been just yesterday, the best replacements for Frank Clark. And the first thing on their list, they're with me. They trade for Josh Allen. And again, I know people are looking at that laughing and saying, why would the Jaguars give him up? Think about this,
It's a possibility,
though.
man.
First of all, this draft has a ton of edge rush, okay? And the Jaguars have an early
deep.
pick.
Yeah.
If you were to give, let's say, my trade scenario was you give them your first overall pick, which is the 30th overall pick, and then you give them multiple mid-round picks. The Chiefs have 3 third-round picks.
Yeah.
If you were to give them 2 third-round picks with the first-round pick, you give the Jaguars 3 additional picks within the first 3 rounds. They're building themselves a team. Now, they could say,
That's a win-win
we
for
think
both.
Josh Allen is worth saving and keeping, even though he only had 7.5 sacks last year. We still think he's our guy. The question really comes down to, will Josh Allen sign long-term with the Jaguars? That's the question I think he asked. I think having Doug Peterson there helps his confidence probably want to stay. But I look at it and I go, okay, Chiefs just signed Joe Colin, the defensive coordinator, now defensive line coach for the Chiefs from Jacksonville. Yeah. You have the relationship with Doug Peterson. Voice. It makes a lot of sense. But there are outward scenarios also out there, guys, like we talked about. There is plenty of free agents out there on the defensive line, defensive edge. Von Miller, Emmanuel Ogbah, Melvin Ingram, like I said, Dante Fowler. Yeah. So just like we talk about wide receiver and the Chiefs having all these options to pick from, or at least go and scout and see what their interest level would be of coming to Kansas City, it's even more so on the defensive side. Because think about this. Unlike a wide receiver that comes here, whoever the Chiefs were to sign or trade for at edge is the guy.
Yeah.
Like Chris Jones is the interior presence. We all know that. But whoever comes here to be the edge rush guy is the primary edge rush guy, which means he's going to get paid. More than likely, whoever the Chiefs sign, unless it's one of these aging veterans, they're going to get a long-term deal. Josh Allen, if he decides, hey, Jaguars, look, I appreciate everything. You guys drafted me, top 7 overall pick, all these other things. I appreciate that. I want another scenario. I would like to be traded. Talk to me about this. I'd like to go to Kansas City. Can we figure this deal out, get multiple picks back?
Yeah.
I want a long-term deal in Kansas City. Give me a 40 or $65 million deal in Kansas City. All of a sudden, you have a man that's paid, who's 25 years old. Chiefs just upgraded there, and the Jaguars get all these assets to add to this draft class already to build a young, cheaper nucleus around Trevor Lawrence and give Doug Peterson a team to build for years to come. It's a dream scenario. I get it.
Yeah.
It's something that people are looking at as a fantasy right now, but it is very much a reality. And I'm going to continue to hammer that home until I am proven otherwise, unless the Chiefs make another decision. Could they keep Frank Clark? Maybe. I'm not banking on it because I don't think that he is the answer, and I don't think the Chiefs want to spend any more money on Frank Clark to miss several more games, either whether to physical ailments and or suspensions. I just don't think that's the right idea. We got our guy Harold Kuntz coming up in just a minute. In the meantime, Eddie, if it's all right with you, man, I'd like to get a couple thoughts from you from the Eddie Hour and see if that'd be all right. Yeah, let's get some thought-provoking questions. First of all, I actually want to start this question off to Eddie.
No.
I'm taking over the Eddie Hour for a second because I just love to run my mouth. But because of the fact my guy has his sporting shirt on, I want to get your just general thoughts real quick on the MLS season. We know it's already started up. This is the home opener for Sporting KC today, and you're going to be there in attendance. I know that I think it's New York is the favorites right now because they just won the title last year. The Seattle Sounders are out there. And a couple other teams are up there at the top. Sporting's not even in the top 5 right now as the favorites. How do you see this season going? How do you see Sporting season going? Are you optimistic they can give themselves a run? And who do you think overall wins the MLS Cup?
Man, MLS seasons are so very hard to predict because like a team here in the MLS can go from being in the playoffs last season to completely disappearing this year.
Right.
It's like such a roller coaster league. I don't know why that happens. To me, that's how I view it. I view it as a roller coaster. Yes, you have your favorites all the time to win the title. Obviously, Seattle's there because since they came into the league, they're always trying to, contending for the championship. But then you also have them, falling out a little bit early in the playoffs, and so it's just very, 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 very hard to predict who could potentially win the title. New York City FC, they obviously have a great roster who can go back there and compete again. You have obviously LA Galaxy, who are they always favorites, but they've been ass for the past 3-4 seasons. You know what I mean? Like it just, I don't. MLS is so for me is just very, very hard to predict. I don't know why it is. I guess it's very hard to understand it because players constantly are switching throughout MLS. They're bringing in these massive, what do they call it, designated players, and nothing changes. Or they bring a designated player, like when they brought like Zlatan, something changed. You know what I mean? So it all depends on what they give you and all that stuff. So. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad my guy Eddie could give us some MLS breakdowns because now we have the pleasure of being joined by a man that I respect very much so. He is the Fox 4 sports anchor, a guy that is breaking stories, breaking necks if he has to, I'm sure, because, obviously it's a neck-breaking business out there.
He's official. Look at this guy.
Let's give it up for the one, the only, Harold Kuntz.
Wow, what an introduction.
Hey, look, man, when we have high-class, high-quality guests, we got to give them high-quality experience. You know what I mean? I'm not here to waste your time, bro.
Nah, you're good. How you guys doing today?
We're doing great, man. We're glad to have our guy Harold Kuntz here because we need to get some knowledge on our show. I've been here just jabbing my jaws, just sitting here saying nonsense. I need you to bring us down to earth and give us some common sense. Eddie, you got a comment?
Hey, man, I see your badge. Now, I was talking about MLS and how unpredictable for me it is to pick a favorite to win the title.
Yeah.
Like, to you, who do you think could potentially win the title this year, and do you think Sporting can be up there?
Sporting's always up there. Do I think they can win it? I need to see about 10 matches before we get to that conclusion. But for right now, you usually gotta go one of the bigger names like a Seattle, Portland, NY, one of the LAs, just because they still have talent. Like, LAFC has Vela, Galaxy has Chicharito. I mean, like, they have proven strikers. Right now, like, Daniel Shalhoub, as good as he is, he's not like at that level. So it's Sporting KC always does a great job of being in there. That's what they do. They're always in it. It's just that championship gear seems to be hard for them to locate.
Are you going to be there today?
Yep. That's where I'm
Hell
headed.
yeah.
After this,
Hey,
Shout out the media badge.
Yeah, Harold, you and Eddie need to meet up today, man, because he's actually going to be there as well in attendance. Hopefully it doesn't rain you guys out, but yeah, you guys need to link up and get a little photo or something, a little photo op. Got to meet a celebrity eventually, Might as well meet Eddie Ortiz.
It is kind of weird when I go to these games and somebody will just randomly come up and be like, "Hey, you do a good job." I'm like,
Hell yeah,
what are
man.
you talking about? Because you think about it as you're just doing your job. You don't think of it as like, oh yes, I'm legit watching this today.
You get a little dust off your shoulder when you get done talking to those people. Like, what was that? Oh, that was weird. That was weird. Let's talk about the other football for a second.
Please.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on, man. We know there's gonna be a lot of moving pieces going on with the Chiefs, a lot of opportunities out there. But I want to start first and foremost. Well, we started first and foremost today. When it came to Andy Reid and what he addressed her first and foremost, when it came to his relationship with Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy, I stated that it felt a little weird because I don't think that anybody really believed that there was a hatred between Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, or there was a hatred between Patrick Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy. We knew there was a rift. We knew that there was something going on, and I felt like Andy was playing some damage control here and trying to set a precedent, which I understand. But I also felt like there was a lot of nothing going on with that comment as well. What was your overall takeaway from what you heard Andy Reid say to open up to the press before he even got a question?
Really, just to kind of disallow the BS, if you will, just to get it out of the way. I mean, he said it. I mean, his words are, "I was on vacation. I come back to all this basically mess." Things like this, you have to take them at their word for it because we don't know human interactions. Like, I'm not in the building when you and Eddie are talking to each other, so I'm not going to assume what you and Eddie said. Right? That's just common sense. So Andy Reid, he probably had. I mean, I'm sure there was a conversation with Eric, but it was like, the conversation probably was first, how can I help you get a job? Because I think you deserve to have a head coaching job. So let's help you try to get that head coaching job. Let's get the name out there. Let's do whatever I can. I'll help you interview, whatever. And if that didn't work out, clearly had an 8-hour interview with the Saints and it didn't work out. And I mean, I've had an 8-hour interview before and I didn't get the job too. So I can totally understand that. And that doesn't work out. Let's move on. Let's move on to, do you want to be here? Yes. All right. We'd love to have you. That was probably the conversation. Cooler heads prevailed. Like, it was probably just a heated discussion because, quite frankly, everybody still wants an answer from what happened in the second half of that game in the AFC Championship game with the Bengals. But I'll give you the answer. They lost the game. I know it's a harsh reality, but that's the reality of what happened. Like, the Bengals, I said this a couple of times. It was like a poker game. The Bengals played the man. They didn't play the team. They played the man. Sometimes you got to play the man. If he's bluffing or not. That's who you're playing. You're playing the man. They played the man. They basically said, we're going to send 3 at you. If they get to you, great. We're going to bank on you, number 15. You can't do this. And you, the coaching staff, you're not going to run the ball because this is your nature. They won the bet. It was one of those bets that was a 70-30 bet, probably. If you're playing poker, when they show the percentages, it was probably a 71-29 type bet. Sometimes the 29 wins. That's just what happened. Like, they got their turn card, they got their river card. That's literally what happened in that game. That's no fault of anybody, players. I mean, that's just coaching staff. So you have to ask your questions. All right, well, what do we do from here? Well, Mike Kafka's gone. He's off to New York. He wanted full control of an offense. God bless him. We need some sort of consistency. You want Matt Nagy to come? Andy Reid says, hey, Matt Nagy, do you want to come over? And he's probably thinking, well, maybe he wants to calm down because, he just got off 4 years of coaching. Matt Nagy's like, sure, I'm coming. You want to have a conversation with Eric Bieniemy? Sure, I'm coming. Patrick Mahomes has said over and over and over before, you listen to these press conferences, you listen for the tidbits now. It's like the little tidbits of information that are like, oh, okay. Brett Veach is really good at giving tidbits. Sometimes he just straight up gives them to you. Like Orlando Brown's going to be a franchise tag by Tuesday, probably Monday. Like we know that's happening because he made that tidbit pretty obvious. But sometimes you get little tidbits. And Patrick Mahomes has always said he likes consistency throughout the season. When things were not consistent, things were in his ear. Because look, this is a guy who started out as a rookie with Alex Smith and Andy Reid and Matt Nagy, was nice and consistent. And his rookie year was nice and consistent. His second, this is the first year he had a little turbulence. So how do you calm down turbulence? Keep it consistent. Hence Eric Bieniemy. So it's not a hard thing to say, hey, this is what happened. But I guess sometimes if you're a Joe fan, you're going to think to yourself, like, I need an answer. And the answer was like, yeah, Eric Bieniemy does a good job. I mean, this is a guy that's had Patrick Mahomes with, averaging nearly 5,000 yards passing a year. He's averaging nearly, however many, like 37 touchdowns a year. The numbers he's put up are insane, and Eric Bieniemy's there. So he's been in the building for that. Now, have they had their disagreements? Yes. I would also like to inform you that, newsflash, humans disagree sometimes.
Right.
I disagree, Harold.
Oh, you did? Oh, yeah, exactly. Humans disagree sometimes. We have our arguments. So what do? You talk it out to the betterment of the team, not the detriment to the team. It's just simple. It's just simple human philosophy, simple human nature that just need to be taken account of. Like, I always joke around sometimes. I'm like, well, sometimes you just can't put 12 men in a real building because nothing's going to ever get figured out. Like hard-headed men too, like A personality. You play in the NFL, you're probably an A guy. The only A guy in that building is Andy Reid. He's always said he's got 51% of the vote. So if he has that, that's what he's going to do.
Yeah. And speaking of tidbits, I know you brought up Brett Veach and what he says and how you can nitpick and get some things out of what he's actually saying. And he says a lot, but like Andy Reid, he says a lot, but sometimes he doesn't say everything. But I think that Brett Veach he's one of those guys that you can translate pretty well, and I know you brought that up. And speaking of that, we all know that Orlando Brown Jr. is going to be here for at least another year. I think that the Chiefs are going to get a long-term deal in place with Orlando Brown because of what they gave up and knowing what he is and the value of his position, his age, all those things considered. But there are some legitimate questions here, and I want to start with Tyrann Mathieu. And I know that you and I have talked, and you said, man, at this point it's a guessing game. Yeah. But just to your best guess, Harold, I feel that the Chiefs have handled this decently. I think it's been a little confusing because they talk about how much they love Tyrann Mathieu, and Tyrann Mathieu says how much he loves Kansas City, and I believe both sides are telling the truth. But it's hard for me to believe the Chiefs want to pay Tyrann Mathieu top dollar when they haven't done it. I think they're letting the market price Tyrann Mathieu and then say, all right, we'll offer this. If you're serious about staying here, you'll stay here for this X amount of dollars. Do you think that Tyrann Mathieu is going to take less here in Kansas City? Or do you think there's going to be a team out there that makes sense for Tyrann Mathieu, both competitively and financially, for him to move on?
It depends upon the less that they want to offer him. Are you saying less than Jamal Adams? Maybe he'll take that offer. Are you saying less than what he gets now? Absolutely not. If you're saying less than maybe the second person on the market, there's a consideration there. You always have to consider who your agencies are in this process. Now, Tyrann Mathieu has laid roots here. I mean, his his other half has the shop down in the plaza, I believe. His kids have been involved in athletics around here in youth sports. He's laid roots here. But you know who else has laid roots? Frank Clark. And I can already tell you right now, like, that might not go the way Tyrann Mathieu's negotiation is going to go. So it really has to depend upon what were the conversations like with Brett Veach and Tyrann's team, if you will, in Indianapolis. What were the conversations? Because the week starts, the league year starts next week, basically. So you have to really hunker down those conversations. You have to try to see the pulse of, do I want to stay or do I not want to stay? My best guess is that they look at their secondary and they say to themselves, okay, we might need to keep him just because they're going in disarray if they don't. They've talked more and more about Charvarius Ward. They want to keep him. Like, you can tell they want to keep him. Mm-hmm. They've talked more and more about Tyrann Mathieu in a way that you lean toward, as we're looking at clues with Brett Veach, you lean more toward maybe they will let it slide. But you ask anybody in that secondary, You know, like if you talk to some of the players in the secondary, let's keep this in mind. The only player in the secondary that was really available this entire year was L'Jarius Sneed and Tyrann Mathieu. We didn't hear from Charvarius Ward the entire year. We only heard from Dan Sorensen after he had the interception against the Broncos. That's the only time we heard from him all year. We only heard from Juan Thornhill, I think, after post-injury, and we didn't hear from him much after that since. We didn't hear from many secondary guys. Rashad Fenton? Nope. Like, that should tell you, like, they lean on Tyrann. Like, these guys are like, what he says go. And if he leaves, then basically you're telling L'Jarius Sneed, like, you're the leader of this team now. And is he ready to be a leader of that team? That's a conversation that needs to be had. Because, I mean, I'm sorry, the secondary in the NFL, yeah, the rules are one thing, but that's pretty important because everybody's passing offense. And if you have Aaron Rodgers go to Denver, then you really need Tyrann Mathieu.
Yep.
That's a good point.
You can't go out there and throw out that. You cannot do that. So that's really what it comes down to. They have to really measure and weigh how much do they feel they're going to drop off without him. I think they'll drop off without him. But again, it all really boils down to what those conversations are like in Indianapolis, and none of us are going to know about those conversations unless Tyrann tweets it out personally himself, and or they just get released. He just released, and we find out the backstory then.
Yeah. You mentioned Frank Clark as well, and that's a pivotal piece as to what the Chiefs do this offseason, because you either figure out a way to restructure Frank Clark, try to keep him back, keep him for another year, try to get whatever you can out of him this season. I mean, 43 games now, only 18 and a half sacks. He has one sack in his last 189 playoff snaps as well. He hasn't lived up to the contract. I told Trevor, I told Eddie that I think it's best the Chiefs cut ties now, save anywhere from $13 to $19 million by cutting him, letting him go. See what you can get out there in the market. I think there's a ton of options out there to replace him. I think better options out there, whether it's through trades, whether it's through free agency. You said it may not go the same way as Tyrann Mathieu. I tend to agree with you on this. How do you see the whole Frank Clark situation ending or continuing, rather, in Kansas City?
I think the most important thing about what happens with Frank Clark is today. And I say today because the defensive linemen are at the combine right now. And they're testing today. And it's supposed to be deep. And if you think you find some value there that's better than anything you've got, then you go with that new guys. Because let's look at some of the guys that have been kind of introduced to the league that were mid-round, first-round picks, like Micah Parsons. He turned out all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like some of the Watts guys who were like, kind of early. Some were early, but the most were late. They turned out all right. You can find some value there. And they just need to do a better job of defense. Like I mentioned, you guys got guys like Breland Speaks and Tano Passanio and a couple other and Derek Noddy. I mean, they've found guys that have been suitable star, but they've never found a star. They've never found a star defensive line since Chris Jones in 2016. And that was obviously not Brett Veach's responsibility. That was Dorsey's responsibility. So they've got to really hunker down and find some defensive linemen in the draft. That's what they've got to do. So they have to measure, one, Frank, do you want to restructure? Because Frank's going to be asked to restructure. Brett Veach has pretty much already admitted that. Frank's probably going to say no. So then there's the conversation. He's probably going to say no because, well, he feels like he deserves it. I mean, Frank Clark can point – you mentioned all the stats about Frank Clark, but he can also point to the fact that he's one of the greatest sack leaders in postseason NFL history.
Yep.
Somebody will want that on their team, right?
Absolutely.
And he's got a Super Bowl championship. Somebody's going to want that on their team. Now, he may not get paid the way he would anywhere else like he's getting paid now, and somebody's got to take on his salary, but somebody will take on that salary for informational purposes, I'm sure. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's not going to – I personally think he's not going to be around. I mean, never say never, but I just think he's not going to be around. But you really need to, start digging in these defensive lines. You've got to make better picks. You've got to make better picks. I mean, Colin Saunders is one of your better picks, and he wasn't even a draft pick.
Right.
He was a pickup from Missouri S&T, and everybody's like, who's that? Or not Colin Saunders, I'm sorry, Treshaun Wharton.
Yeah.
But Colin Saunders was fourth round, and, he just can't stay healthy. So we still don't know what his wall is or ceiling is. So, I mean, Derek Noddy was a decent pick for one. His Tano Passanio is gone. You had Emmanuel Agba. He was shipped off to Miami. You've got – and then on the other end, I mean, you really haven't figured out another decent end outside of Melvin Ingram. You have to measure, do you want to keep him or not in the fold? So there's a lot to do with that defensive line. They know they need to restructure. So I think their biggest thing is they're probably going to go through free agency. They're going to go through free agency. There's some guys out there. That's absolutely 100% what they're going to have to do with that defensive line.
That's actually what my next question was. I have 2 more quick questions for you, Harold. I know you have a busy day ahead of you, but first and foremost, I said that there are big wants and big needs for this team. Big wants to me are getting a top-tier free agent wide receiver, which I do think the Chiefs are going to visit. There's a lot of guys out there that I think they can go and entertain and sign and add to this offense and make this an even more complete offense. But if the Chiefs didn't do that, just re-sign a Byron Pringle or somebody like that, this to me would still be a top 5 offense next season. But when it comes to needs, we know that the defensive line is where they have to hit, and they have to hit hard. Overcorrecting last year, offensive line absolutely benefited this team. It was the right thing to do for Brett Veach. I think they're going to do the same thing on the defensive side this year. And there are a lot of guys out there on the defensive side, like you said, that are free agents out there. Von Miller, Melvin Ingram, Dante Fowler. There's Emmanuel Ogba. There's guys out there that the Chiefs can go and get. If you had to guess right now, because again, this is a guessing game, what names on the defensive line and what names at free agency wide receivers do you think the Chiefs are going to have on their team for the 2022 season?
And receiver-wise, I still keep up the pipe dream of Juju. I still keep that pipe dream up. I think that will be pursued at the very least. You're going to hear some information about that being pursued. He kind of seems to like it here. I think he fit in well here. They need that big body receiver, but the Chiefs want a big body receiver. I think I pointed this out in a tweet earlier with the Chiefs, like when they were looking at all the draft picks they can look out for wide receiver. Every guy they listed was above 6'2". And, the only guys that are above 6'2" is Josh Gordon right now, who's going to be still a project on the practice squad, and then Marcus Kemp. Those are your only 2 guys. Now, they like Marcus, but they like him more for a special teams guy. Josh Gordon, we don't know where he fits in. He'll have a chance to, reacclimate himself more and more in St. Joe during training camp. But that's all they got. They need big bodies. And that's all they listed as big bodies. The only thing they are interested in looking at is big bodies for wide receivers. So I still think like Juju's out there, but I mean, that could be a pipe dream, but there will be that conversation. Defensive line, though, that's the one. They were 29th, I believe, in sacks this year. I mean, the year they won the Super Bowl, they were like at 18th or 19th. So, I mean, they're just looking for competency. So, I mean, I'm even pulling up a list now. Like, I mean, like Clowney gets injured, Ogba could return, Calais Campbell's is out there, but I mean, you've got Tyron obviously being rumored with Baltimore too, so that would be basically a swap right there. Jerry Hughes is available. Still something from Buffalo if that's possible. And then you got a couple other guys like Takaris McKinley, Solomon Thomas. There's some guys out there. I mean, Ryan Kerrigan, if he's still got a little bit of a motor. Let's not say Justin Houston, he's available. That's just a joke.
God, I would love that. I would love to get my guy Justin Houston back, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but I mean, there's guys out there. It's just you got to get guys with a motor, and those motors are going to be your Brooks. So, I mean, you look at free agency, you get something for good value defensive line-wise. Hope you don't miss in the draft. And then you get something out there of good value wide receiver-wise. And then once again, hope you don't miss in the draft. Or a free agency with a wide receiver that fits in because, again, Mahomes, we go back to consistency. He wants consistency, and the best way to garner consistency is somebody who's there. I mean, they finally found like a decent role for McCole Hartman. They like Byron Pringle and his development. I think nobody would disagree there. And then obviously Tyreek, there's multiple reports out there that he's going to say he's going to get extended. So obviously they like him, but Tyreek's going to lose his step eventually one day. Byron, as great of a story it is, do you want him to be a number 3? We have no idea what's going to happen with DeMarcus. It's not looking great, but we have no idea what's going to happen with him because they keep re-signing 1-year deals. So you've really there's more work for the Chiefs to do than than we think. There's a lot of work for them to do to be at the caliber they believe they be, which is, of course, Super Bowl caliber. But you got to have skill players. You got to have skill players. Forget the running backs. Don't even look at running backs. You got running backs. Don't even look at them. You got to have skill players. You've got your tight end waiting in Noah Gray for basically like the learn under Travis for the next 2-3 years. So don't even worry about that. You've got to go out there. You've got to get a receiver. And you've got to weigh to yourself, look, we are a scoring team. This is a scoring league. We need to add people that score. Everything else will take care of itself. But we need to add people who have the capability of scoring. Because, again, as the season progressed, they had Tyreek and Travis dependency. And I'm sorry, everybody watched the Super Bowl and saw that, well, you could have Cooper Kupp dependency, but if you get that Odell Beckham, that's kind of nice too. Mm-hmm. So you've got to look for that. You've got to look for receiver. I put a demand on receiver, and I mean, this is probably goes against any type of good thinking, but I put a better premium on receiver than I would defensive line. Now, that being said, you still go out there and get a defensive lineman. Like last year, they knew they had to rebuild the offensive line, and they spent all of that time focusing on the offensive line, draft picks, free agency, and quickly realized, ooh, we need to fix something else. So that's Brett Veach's conundrum. He fixed one thing last year, now he's got to fix two.
Yeah.
So that's a conundrum to have. I mean, it's a good conundrum to have. I mean, like, look, you could be 24 to 32 teams that are probably looking for a quarterback or not sure about it. So you have that for the next 10, 15 years. Now everything's just bonus. You just got to fix. Just got to keep fixing, keep chipping at it.
You mentioned don't even look at running back, but I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of Chiefs fans saying that they want to give up the second-round pick for Saquon Barkley. So I don't know, Harold. You might need to speak some wisdom to these people, bro.
Stop. Just stop.
No.
I'm with you, bro. Trust me. All right, final question for my guy, Harold. I know you got a busy day. You got to get.
Let me just address that running back thing real quick.
No, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Please stop, because the lead rusher of this team had 568 yards rushing. Darrell Williams and Clyde was out for half of the season, like pretty much half of the season. You've got other guys in the fold too. Like, just stop. That's not like, do you need a Jamal Charles to win? It's nice to have, but do you need it to win the Super Bowl? No. Okay. Damian Williams had a great postseason stretch when they won the Super Bowl, a few years back in Miami. But that's because he had a couple 100-yard games. They're still totally capable of doing that. They could have done that in the Cincinnati game. They just called runs.
Yeah.
Jared McKinnon was on his way to a good game, and he just kept calling him. So, no, stop that. Just stop that whole thing.
Stop it.
Spend your money elsewhere.
Somebody asked me, they're like, what would you give up for Saquon? I said either a conditional 6th-round pick or one of the 5 7th-round picks the Chiefs have over the next couple of years. Other than that, miss me with that trade, man.
I mean, like, do you want – it's like, look, he got injured in New York. He's going to get injured in – like, you think he's just going to magically get well?
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
Burkhalter is literally the best athletic trainer as voted on by the league.
Yeah.
No, he's still going to get hurt. No.
Yeah, Sammy Watkins was still getting hurt here. You think it's going to be different for Saquon? Come on. Well, we got one final question for my guy Harold here. It's the most important one. That's why I'll save it for last. Harold, I would consider you a friend now for a solid year now. And we keep talking about this barbecue, bro. You text me one time and say, hey, man, when we hanging out, look, you're the busy guy. You're the one with the verified account. You're the one that works for the big guys. You got to let us know, man, when your schedule opens up, and we'll find you. What are we doing here, man? When are we meeting up, and when are we going to have some of this barbecue that we keep talking about?
Well, it's March, right?
It is.
This is a basketball account for March. I had two choices today. I was like, do I go to Kansas or go to Sporting? And I had to realize, well, whatever one's going to get me back before the earliest, so I got to anchor a show tonight. But, but I mean, I'll be at the Big 12 tournament next week, so there's that. And then I'll probably have March Madness, so there's that. So I'll tell you what. When were the Royals supposed to open? March 31st. I think that day's free.
Allegedly.
I think that day's free. So I might have a little leeway there.
Yeah, might have some time
to talk about. Yeah. So.
Well, how about this? You just hit my line when you got the time. If baseball doesn't happen for the next month or so, then we got some barbecue opportunities there, bro.
Eddie, Trev, you're coming, right?
Hell yeah, man.
They better be. We ain't doing this if we don't got the whole crew, man.
That's how we got to do it.
So that is the sports anchor for Fox 4, KC. He is a guy that I respect vehemently. I appreciate his opinion, and more than anything, I appreciate his time because he has very little to spare, but he does, and he's kind enough to come on here, a friend of the show and a family member of the show, and I cannot wait for him to buy us some barbecue.
I'm buying now.
You're making me wait here, man.
How do I leave studio here now? I didn't realize I was paying for this video.
We're inviting, but you're paying.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works.
Retreat.
We're not even doing Dutch.
I'm watching Villanova and Butler. They got Andy Reid at Butler watching the basketball. Villanova's kicking their butts.
There you go.
Nice. And I was like, why the heck is that Villanova Butler? I was like, well, hey, it's Indianapolis for Cobb, but through Villanova, Philadelphia, but I was like, Boy, Butler's bad at basketball. Brad Stevens back bad.
Yeah, that ain't happening. He's
Gordon
happy
Hayward.
sitting in that front office with the Celtics.
Yeah, Gordon Hayward and all those Sheldon Mack. They need those guys back.
Well, Harold, I hope you have a blast at Sporting Park today. Meet up with Eddie. I don't know, Eddie, send him a text or a message on Twitter or something. You guys can hang out. Enjoy that time, man. Stay dry out there. Have fun. Keep kicking ass, dude. You do an incredible job with what you do. Enjoy it. And everybody out there, follow my guy on Twitter. It's at Harold Ardkuntz 3. He's a great dude, great follow. Does incredible work. And we appreciate your time, Harold. Let's hang out soon, brother.
Let's do it.
All right,
Thanks,
man.
guys.
You have a great day.
man.
Be safe.
Good, man.
That's our guy Harold Kuntz, man. I always appreciate his time, his efforts, man. He always got my ass cracking up, dude, when he was talking about barbecue. I tried to save that at the end, man. But he's like, "What are we doing this, man?" He even texted me like a month ago. I'm like, "Bro, you let me know when, bro. I'm sitting here waiting for you,
Dude, we'll
man.
just dine and dash them, dude. We'll all go to the restroom at the same time and just never come back.
Hey, I'll go get the car warmed up, Trev. You go to the bathroom, Eddie. You stay here." Well, that's awesome, man. He had some really good. He had some interesting takes about something he said about the wide receiver position, how he actually values that more than defensive line. I think that's interesting. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I understand where he's coming from because of the fact you needed that added dimension to this offense to make this thing.
You could last season you could tell that this defense was missing that third option that we've been talking about. Yes, we want to put Pringle in that category. We want to put Harmon in that category, but they just weren't enough. Why? Because they weren't getting the looks enough because they weren't open. They're not great route runners, so they're not always your safest bet. So obviously with Tyreek Hill struggling with the hip injury or what was he dealing with? I think it was a hip.
The flexor,
Yeah. So you can tell those guys were struggling as well because Tyreek Hill was still getting double, and then those guys just couldn't get open. And then when Patrick threw them the ball, they just weren't catching it. So you can sit here and say, well, Pringle, he had a great game and blah, blah, blah. I get it. But one game doesn't do shit for
Yeah,
anybody.
you can't bet on him being a consistent piece, as we talked about.
Same for Harmon, though he had his record.
He had a really good year, yeah.
He had his record season, career high.
He's a gadgety player.
We know his role, though.
Yes.
But we know
Yes.
what he can bring to this table, and it's not a third
Talking about
option.
consistency. That's not a guy you want to have.
Yes, and that exactly. That's not a third
Spurts.
option for this team. You need that third option because obviously, like I said, last season we saw this team struggling without that third option.
And the reason why it's so important to get that third and fourth option to be legitimate is because people think that when you have these top tier, like all-pro players like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, that they're going to make those other guys better. It's actually the reverse. When you have reliable assets around those star players, it makes the star players better. It gives them the opportunity to play better because you have to respect those fringe players, those guys on the outside. And if you add a top-tier athlete like a Juju, like an Amari Cooper, like a Mike Williams or an Allen Robinson, all of a sudden you're talking about Travis Kelce having one of his easiest seasons.
Yeah, and that's why I do agree with Harold with the wide receiver being probably the most important move as far as a splash name because there's so many sexier names out there than there are defensive lineman free agents. I do think we'll make a free agent move on the defensive line.
Yeah.
But there's not nearly the marketability and the player and the name and the talent that there is in wide receiver right now. It's a deep pool right now with wide receiver. So I do agree with that being the most important move right now. But because I do think we will draft a defensive lineman. I do think that takes place. Whether it's our first or second pick, it's going to be in the first two picks. I fully believe that. So hopefully we can find a talented guy in there, and then I do believe we make a free agent move, whether that's at the detriment of Frank Clark or not, or could be bringing back Melvin Ingram and trying to figure out a way to make that work. We'll see. But, yeah, I do think wide receiver, that is going to be the big – because we're the most dynamic – we've been the most dynamic offense in the league for the last few years. We were the most dynamic when we had a very talented third option when Sammy Watkins was when he was peaking with us. We were unstoppable when he was doing when he needed him to do as far as consistency goes and scoring touchdowns. And we were just we were a well-oiled machine.
Let me just throw this out here before we get back to the Eddie hour because I want to get Eddie's thoughts or questions. I would welcome Saquon Barkley to the Chiefs.
Of course.
He is a 25-year-old specimen. Mm-hmm. However, yes, at the right price, first of all.
That's
Second
all
of all,
matters,
the man's missed 20 games in 4 seasons. Now, his rookie year, he didn't miss any games.
He's incredible.
But after that, it's like the Christian McCaffrey effect. Would I have him on the Chiefs? Yes. But am I giving up valuable assets to add him in when when positionally that's not a very high commodity position anymore? Running back is one of the lower most valuable positions in the league. And second of all, when you have a history now of injuries in your early 20s, how am I supposed to convince myself that as you age, you're going to get better at staying healthy? It's not going to happen.
I will say this, though. It would be an entirely different dynamic for him personally coming into this offense because he would no longer be the anchor of the offense.
That's true.
He's been
That's,
the anchor of the offense
yes.
the entire time since he's been in New York. He's getting just completely almost every snap he's carrying the ball 25 times a game.
But just to the point,
we would just need him to have production in big spots.
But just to that point, again, when you talk about what you're trading to get a guy in spots, it doesn't make sense to give up a second-round pick or even a fourth-round pick. I wouldn't give up a fourth-round pick for Saquon Barkley.
I would rather draft another running back in the fourth round.
Because also the fact that we've seen what Brett Veach can do in the middle rounds. They got L'Jarius Sneed in the fourth round. Who would you rather have, Trevor? L'Jarius Sneed or Saquon Barkley right now?
Fucking Sneed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you look at it just positionally. The Chiefs are better at drafting players in the middle rounds than giving them up for guys.
Well, dude, and running backs are just continuing to drop in drafts. So if we wanted to take a chance on a young guy that wants to make a name for himself, go in the fourth round and pick up a running back.
Yeah,
Because
because Sammy Watkins was great for the Chiefs early on in that trade, right? Or not that trade, but that signing. That was awesome. But at the end of it, you look back and you're like, damn, the Chiefs paid him a lot of money to miss a lot of games. He missed 15 games in just 3 years.
Season.
Yeah, exactly. So you're talking about if you're giving anything up for Saquon Barkley, and again, I would kick the tires on it if they're like, hey, look. You kick us a late round pick, we'll give you Saquon.
Oh, that would be
if you give
glorious
us
to have him
a
in a
conditional
Chiefs
6-round pick or a 6-round pick period. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll take it, but they're not going to do that. Someone else is going to overtrade for him.
Would you do like a McKinnon and a seventh for Saquon?
The problem is that McKinnon's not on contract right now, and he's also an injury-prone player who's 30 years old.
I want to keep him around.
So he's 5 years older than Saquon. No one in their right mind, even the Giants,
He
would
carries no
trade
weight.
on
Yeah.
a player 5 years older at the
Now
position
on
who's
his
much
fourth
smaller.
team.
Yeah, it's not. No, that would never happen.
Let's say you're trying to bring, obviously, Saquon to kind of team up with Clyde. Would you trade any running back that the Chiefs currently have in their roster to get Saquon?
The problem is in the
I would trade
NFL,
Clyde,
you usually don't do like position for position trades. It's usually draft assets, cash, things like that. So that wouldn't even be a realistic scenario. And I think as it's currently constructed, I think the only running back they have on roster going into the season is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Maybe Derek Gore's still under contract.
I believe Gore is.
But he's
Who
not
I
usually
like
on the
too.
active roster, so I don't know how. Yeah, so I don't think Darrell Williams is under contract right now.
don't think so.
McKinnon's not under contract right now.
Yep.
Clyde's the only one. And here's the funny thing about that. You just drafted Clyde 2 seasons ago in the first round, and he's already injury prone.
Yep.
So you're adding another injury prone first round running back to the equation. Like Harold said, unless there is a scenario where the Chiefs just lowball the Giants and they take it, we got to stop at the scenario because it's just ridiculous at this point.
Yeah.
I'd rather entertain Calvin Ridley trades than this Saquon Barkley
We've
stuff.
talked
And that's
about
not
running
happening
backs, I
either.
think, at this point.
Yeah, so
McCaffrey?
it's not happening either.
No.
So, Eddie, let's get to your thoughts. I'm sure you have some other thought-provoking questions even outside of the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll visit that. So, Eddie, what do you have in the Eddie
All right,
Hour?
man, let's go fucking MLB right away because I know that fucking ticks you off, and I want to like take the mojo from like up here to like down here.
This should have been a
Let's
beer.
bring the show down a bit.
Yeah. So, first question is this the perfect time for the MLB to move on from Rob Manfred?
Perfect time for the fans and the players, yes. The owners love him because he just champions for them. This is okay. I hope everybody understands why we're not having baseball to start the year. It's because of the owners. It's not because of the players. This is a lockout. This isn't. There's a difference between a lockout and a holdout. A holdout is the players not doing what they're supposed to be doing. The owners aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing right now.
And that
This is
trickles
the
down on the
fourth
players.
Lockout in the last 3 decades. That's absurd.
Yeah.
You get more than one lockout per 10 years. It's stupid what's happening in baseball. Our guy Pat Mahomes was gracious enough last week to come on and talk about this. He was very nice about it. But there's nothing nice about what's going on right now. If you follow Jeff Passan, who's the most plugged-in reporter in all of baseball right now, who, by the way, is a Kansas City native. What's up? You're talking about how angry players and reporters are becoming with guys like Rob Manfred, who's out there posing his golf swing, in between sessions with the MLBPA. Tony Clark's out here working his ass off, the head of the commissioner for the Players Association, working his ass off to find something to get this going. But see, the problem is these competitive, the competitive tax they're trying to put on these teams is going to fuck these players over. They're the only ones that are going to suffer from this. The new TV deals are about to come in. The revenue streams for baseball are absurd. These owners are making hand over fist even when games aren't being played right now, and they can afford to waste the first month of the season. They're essentially telling us that April doesn't matter, that we can lose April, have 124 games, and we're good. That's what they're telling us, and they're confident in that, and the players are the ones getting screwed. This sucks, man, and I when it comes all full circle to what you're asking, yes, it would be great, and this would be a perfect time to move on from Rob Manfred, but when you cut one head off, another one arises that is the carbon copy of what he is, because at the end of the day, he works for the owners, and the owners want a puppet like that clown Rob Manfred, who called the World Series championship trophy a piece of metal.
Hunk of metal.
Once he said that, to me, I was like, I'd never want to hear this man speak
being
again.
a player hearing
He's
that.
laughing at his last press conference when he was talking to the media about what's going on. He's laughing. This is a joke to him.
Yeah.
Because he's still making his cash. The owners are still making their cash. They're good.
Mm-hmm.
The players and us, people that actually enjoy baseball, are the ones suffering.
Yeah.
And now there will be no more casual fans. Baseball is so close to becoming a niche sport, dude. I didn't know that was going to be a thing. It's America's
becoming
pastime.
archaic.
This
Yeah.
was America's pastime, the oldest sport in America. And we're sitting here looking at this now as a regionalized niche sport. It's pathetically sad what's happened. That's above Rob Manfred. I can't even credit him for all of that, but he's definitely amplifying it.
Yeah, I mean, it's business 101, man. When you have poor management, you have poor, leadership at the top, it's going to trickle down on the players. And the biggest problem is with baseball, and it's been happening for a long time now at this point, outside of a few big names that come and, are very marketable, and they allow them to become marketable names, the Jeters, the A-Rods, and guys like that, Ken Griffey. But it's not enough. They haven't made the game player-centric. It's too much about, like, the control of the owners, the control of the leadership of this, and, the shutout and all this stuff. It's so... The league is already struggling as far as producing, watchable product as far as with the new generation. No one in these past two generations, are, like we've discussed in the show before, is just sitting at home watching baseball in the middle of the day. That's just not happening anymore. They're not getting the eyeballs that they once had before. It is definitely becoming a niche sport. It's becoming a golf in a sense. You know what I mean? So it's in trouble, man. This league is definitely in trouble. No one can argue that anymore. Granted, the guys at the top are going to make their money regardless, but this is affecting the players. This is affecting, future players wanting to come and play this sport, maybe taking their talents elsewhere to play something else. Granted, baseball is always going to be here. It's not like it's just going to go away, but it is dying right now, right? This sport is dying, man, and it's definitely losing the race to a lot of other sports. Soccer's on its way up. I think soccer's starting to rival baseball in a lot of ways, especially in the U.S. MLS is continuing to grow, and if we get the Cup out here, bro, that's going to be huge for this country.
So we already got the World Cup. The World Cup is 2026.
So that's what I'm saying, man. The hype behind that, and once that takes place, all the new young fans that's going to grow from that happening here, it's contagious, right? And then it's literally they're going in opposite directions. So. Yeah, man, baseball's in trouble. I'm not a big baseball guy, and I've continued to say it on the show, but I love the nostalgia of it. I love the sport. It is a fun sport, and it's a very traditional sport. It has a weight to it that's just unique to it. So I hate seeing this. I hate it for the players, most importantly the players, because the players, there's a lot of incredible personalities in baseball, man, that just get swept under the rug. They don't allow these players to become marketable and show who they are, like basketball, especially basketball.
Yeah.
Basketball and football, they don't let their players' personalities shine enough. And I think that's really, really starting to hurt the sport, especially in today's social media age.
All right. Well, moving on from Major League Baseball, because that's literally the only thing you can talk about.
Yeah, there's not much going on, man.
It's sad. But going into the NBA now, we were kind of talking a little bit about yesterday about the NBA because of Luka Doncic numbers, and we're kind of like, says like arguably could potentially be the best player in the NBA right now. So my question is, who is currently the best NBA player right now?
If I had to pick one individual right now to say I think he's the best overall basketball player in the league, I think it is Giannis. I think that just because of the sheer dominance he's had over the last calendar year is just nothing that you can dismiss or scoff at. For what he did in the postseason last year and then came and hit the ground running. Yes,
yeah.
To be able to be so great at both sides of the ball and stays healthy. He's durable as hell. He's in the best shape possible. I mean, he's prime Giannis, man. I think that right now, definitively, it's got to be Giannis. But damn, man, Luka Doncic he's a magician.
Embiid too.
He is and Joel Embiid, obviously. See, this is what's funny. And I don't think, but the NBA is lacking ratings. And I feel people are robbing themselves of watching something historic because
Ja
we
Morant's
have
been
never,
popcorn, man.
ever seen the league this talented.
Yeah.
Not to mention, with all these young guys we're talking about, Giannis is 26, 27, Joel's 26, 27, Doncic is 22, Ja Morant's 21, 22, DeRozan's only in his early 30s. All these guys are playing huge, and I'm not trying to just bring up LeBron, but LeBron is 37 years old in year 19, averaging almost 30 points a game.
Yeah.
The closest that ever come to that in year 19 is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at 14 points per game. That's twice as many points as the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was scoring in year 19. So even
Carmelo's
the old
third
guys,
this year. Carmelo's third this year.
Yes, even the old guys
crazy,
are
bro.
bowling at a high level that we've never seen.
Yeah.
We've never seen this. So from the young guys to the veteran dudes to the old dudes like LeBron, the league has never been this great. And to see Giannis do what he does, it's nothing short of incredible, especially when he's a guy that doesn't shoot. Giannis doesn't shoot the ball and doesn't shoot it well, but it doesn't stop him from scoring 30 points a night because no one can stop the dude to get into the bucket. Imagine trying to stop a dude that's 6'11", 280 pounds that can run like a freaking gazelle. It's stupid, man. Yeah. So my vote is Giannis, but the night is still young, and I think that Doncic is definitely putting himself there. What I need from Doncic is some playoff success. If he goes out there, because he balls in the playoffs, let's not sit here and say he doesn't play well, but if he gets himself to the Western Conference title, he gets there, not even has to get to the finals, but just gets himself a couple deeper into the playoffs and plays really, really well, pushes this team further than they should be because the Mavericks aren't a great team by any stretch of the imagination. They've been playing better since they traded Porzingis, but they're not great, and they're definitely not title favorites out of the West. Once Chris Paul gets back, I think it's a wrap. The Suns are going to get in the finals. But if Doncic gets himself into a title game, a Western Conference title game or series, I think you have to really consider him as a 1B.
Yeah, I think I like I stated even on the post in the group. I even stated I think Luka right now is the hottest player right now. No one's as hot as he is right now. What he's doing, he just the other night just put up 40 on the Warriors and beat them. And that's without Porzingis. That's with him being gone. Like that since Porzingis has been gone, he's been averaging 40 plus, almost a 40 plus triple double, dude. Like it's wild with Powell as a starting center. All these not a lot of big names. Brunson's his two guard. Like it's what he's doing with that Mavs team, and they continue to climb in the rankings in the West. They've hit their stride since Porzingis has left, and I think that was a great move. They should have let go of him last year. Luka to me is the hottest player right now. No one touches him. But as far as dominance and best overall player, it's definitely Giannis for what he does on both ends of the floor. He's prime Shaq, man. That's who he in much more athletic and versatile prime Shaq. He's doing what Shaq, like the numbers are insane and what he does for that team and how valuable he is. And Joel Embiid as well. That cannot go without being mentioned. Joel Embiid is neck and neck with Giannis as the most dominant player in the league right now. And he's managed to stay healthy this year. He's been incredible. And James Harden has looked like a very good addition to that team. They've been hitting their stride as well, and they're a scary team going into the playoffs here pretty soon. DeRozan has obviously been balling out of his mind this season. But I think right now, and John Morant, I don't want to brush past it. What John Morant's been doing lately, the highlight reel he's been putting up night in, night out, it's insane.
Yeah.
I love watching him play. He's D Rose and prime Russell Westbrook like all over again. He's kind of a guy that continues to get banged up a lot too. He's got to be careful. He's kind of reckless, but he is incredible, man. Talk about athlete. That guy might be the best athlete in basketball right now. He's insane. But yeah, I think right now the best and most impressive player right now is Luka Doncic. I really do believe that. What he's doing right now and his ability to make others better is very LeBron-like, and LeBron continues to give him the same kind of praise. And getting that kind of praise from LeBron and saying that they play the game the same way coming from the mouth of LeBron is incredible praise. And I think Luka is the future of this league. I really do.
All right. Damn. Nice.
Luka's my guy, dude. I
like
love that kid.
All right, next question. So UFC 272 is tonight. I'm sure you guys are very well about that. We've been seeing nothing but coverage this whole week. So My question to you is like, who you got? Jorge Masvidal or Colby Covington?
So I think the UFC, this one tells me so much about the UFC struggling to have star matchups that they have to like make this fake beef between these two. I still call bullshit. I think they're still best buds. They've had this little like budding rivalry that they're making up. Because even when you watch their interviews, like Stephen A, they're like laughing. Like you could tell, like they're like after like, oh, that was really good. Like you can tell it's bullshit. The UFC is so desperate. They got a 37-year-old Masvidal who's lost his last 4 fights, having to fight Colby Covington, who's just getting clown shoes put on every time he fights a great fighter. The only win he's had over the last like year and a half is against the box Jake Paul. Woodley.
Yeah,
Tyron Woodley.
Yeah.
That's the only fight he's won in the last year because he's lost Usman back-to-back fights. This is the headline. Like this is what they have to put together. But if I'm breaking down this matchup, honestly, Covington's the better fighter.
At this point, for sure.
He is, and he's going to win this fight. Masvidal is way beyond his prime. He had his opportunity to win a belt, didn't win the belt, didn't get it out, didn't capitalize on what he should have done in his career.
A good run.
He had a really good run, way past his prime. He's been getting knocked out. He's been getting dominated. I just don't foresee, unless Masvidal garners and conjures up that old power he has in those hands, because he's got some hands. He lays him on Colby, he can put him to sleep.
He's got that knee too, man.
But outside of Usman, Colby doesn't get knocked out by anybody.
Yeah.
And I think he's more of a tactical fighter. I think he's more of a complete fighter. He's also younger. And I think he gets the job done. I don't want to see it because I know his loudmouth ain't going to stop talking about LeBron James and fake woke people, whatever the fuck he likes to say. I don't want to hear him talk. Yeah. But I definitely think he's going to win this fight. So I'm going to go with Colby Covington.
Colby should win this fight. I'm picking Masvidal here just because that's my boy, and I want to see him win. It's just a biased pick. I just want to say Colby is by far the better, more technically sound fighter for sure. Especially, and he's got far better defense. Masvidal is just kind of a wild man. He's a street fighter at heart, man. You know, I mean, he came up in the Kimbo Slice days. You know, that's how he was discovered. And then he learned. You know, then he's overachieved honestly in his career from what he's come from. The kid's from the slums, man. You know, so he's got found on some videotapes from the Kimbo Slice era and became and made a name for himself. And kudos to him, man. He never looked back, and here he is. You know, decade into the UFC, he's been doing his thing. You know, what I mean, so I want to see Jorge win because I like him a lot. I've always been a fan of him, and and the best fighter doesn't always win. That's what's great about fighting in the octagon. It doesn't matter. You know, the more technically sound guy can go get hit one time and that's it. You know, and that can definitely happen with Masvidal because he's always had that knockout power. Granted, he is an older guy now, so he's obviously lost a step. He's been getting his bell rung lately, but I don't know about their personal beef. It definitely seems like it's some kind of artistic display of drama here. It definitely feels WWE like, which is still fun for the fans. It's still a good build up, and it's a smart strategy, market wise, marketability wise. But I think Colby should win this fight, but I'm picking Masvidal because I want to see a knockout.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, this question I was going to ask you last week, but I didn't get to ask it. So it's looking like Derek Carr is potentially getting an extension with the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to get your thoughts on that.
This is one of those situations where the Raiders don't really have any other option. Josh McDaniels has taken over as their head coach, and Josh McDaniels, when he was a head coach with the Denver Broncos, had Tim Tebow, who he drafted. Derek Carr is a significantly better quarterback than Tim Tebow ever was, and Josh McDaniels isn't trying to fail his second time around. And I say second time because he never actually fully accepted the Colts job. He left them on red after he agreed to take them over, and he went back to Daddy and Bill Belichick. The Raiders are a team that you would think is such an attractive destination because it's Las Vegas, and I understand that. But see, you have to understand the division they play in. And this is the same conversation I have with Broncos fans when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, a guy that his career's ticking. It's ticking away, and we don't know how much longer he's got. Why in the world would he sign up to come into a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert? So Justin Herbert has yet to make the playoffs, and people consider him an easily top 10 quarterback in the league. That's how great this division, that's how great the AFC is. The Raiders are hamstrung because there's not a guy out there they can adequately replace Derek Carr with that's better. And they're in that purgatory scenario where they know they're not the best team in their division. They know they don't have a real chance of winning the AFC. So you got to stick with what you know. Mm-hmm. And when Josh McDaniels is coming here and wanting to maintain his job security, there is no other option than to go with a 30-year-old Derek Carr who just came off maybe his best season of his career. They have good weapons with Hunter Renfrow. You have Darren Waller. You have a decent running back in Josh Jacobs. You have good pieces around him. So you can have some moderate success. So they're going to pay him, and they're going to pay him a lot of money. He's going to make over $35 million a year for the next 3 to 4 years, and they're going to be a 8-9, 9-8 type of team probably for the foreseeable future. And they're never really going to be great, but they'll be good. And I think Derek Carr's a good quarterback, and that's the situation the NFL's in. Is unless you have a special top shelf quarterback, you got to settle. And they don't have the draft assets to go and get them. And that, quite frankly, this draft doesn't have, well, at least what we see, to be an upgrade, an immediate upgrade. So even if they were to take a guy, Derek's still going to beat them out. And there you spent early draft capital on a quarterback who's not going to play this year. And you're paying Derek Carr an extension that's going to get him another 3 to 4 years and go into his 30s. This is the only option the Raiders had, man, if they're trying to stay relevant. Because if they were to move off Derek Carr, and let's say they go and get a Jimmy Garoppolo for a year and draft a quarterback, they're going to be a terrible team next season. And then they're irrelevant in one of the biggest cities and most relevant cities in the world. Yeah. So this is what they had to do. And I think honestly, as twisted as it sounds, as much as I shit on it just now, it was the right decision to make.
Apparently there's been rumblings about other teams putting out feelers there for Derek Carr, because I think he is if you put him on a championship caliber team, that's a great acquisition of a team. Like a team that needs a quarterback. They're a quarterback away from, they have pieces in place, and you want to put a good, competent quarterback in to make a run at a championship. I think Derek Carr would be a good fit for a lot of teams, or the Vikings or something like that. I think that would be a good maybe move off of Kirk Cousins, because I think he's right in that Kirk Cousins tier. I don't think there's any way he goes anywhere. I think he's grew up a Raider fan. This has been the ideal situation for him. Not the fact that he's had to face the Chiefs, and he's had barely any success against the Chiefs in his career. But I think he wants to be there. I think after what he did last season, going through what they went through, all the shuffling of bodies, players, coaches, the drama, and overcame that and still willed them to a playoff berth, was incredible, man. And I give him all the kudos in the world for doing that and getting them there. And they damn near should have beaten the Bengals. They should have been, going into the next round. So I give Carr so much, if not all of the credit, for keeping his guys together in that locker room, not letting it completely explode and completely fall apart, being without his number one target, the tight end, Darren Waller. Yeah, I mean, being without him for numerous games, and still making it work.
Yeah.
It was incredible what he did last year. I think we kind of gloss. I mean, granted, I know it's the Raiders, I know it's Derek Carr. A lot of times we can't stand him on and off the field, but I got to give him a lot of praise, man, for what they did last year. They should have beat the Bengals. If we're being honest, if we all watched that game, I feel like the Raiders were the better team the majority of that game, and they came down to the last play of the game and got screwed a few times by the refs, if we're being honest. But yeah, I mean, so I think Derek Carr is definitely going to be a Raider next year. I think it only makes sense for them to honor him and keeping him there, and just building around him, because you can. Granted, it is a very tough division in which our Chiefs reside, but I think Derek Carr is a Raider. I think he wants to be a Raider for life, and I think if the team tried to ship him off somewhere else, I think he would just retire, to be honest with you.
Nice. Last question. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers and the whole situation that's going around him. I'm sure you'll have fun talking about this. So, yeah, I want to get your thoughts on the whole Aaron Rodgers situation.
Well, I mean, I think we all could agree that this was about as predictable as it comes when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, now that we've had a full offseason last year of how he handled things to now this year. Aaron Rodgers has almost single-handedly turned himself into a heel. He's turned himself into one of the most, I don't want to say hated players, but one of the most laughed at players at this point because of everything he's done leading up to this offseason. And again, if you want to heal the way you want to heal with his ghee stuff that he's doing now, where he's literally shitting and puking out butter for days on end and doing his meditation stuff, I don't even care about that. That's not even the weirdest things he's been doing. But now we're seeing the combine this offseason, and now we're starting to shift our focus on younger players and these guys that could be potential stars in this league coming up. What do you know? Last night, Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter get the scoop that Aaron Rodgers is, not sure if he still wants to play or not. That all of a sudden comes out again. Just like last offseason during the combine and before the draft, we're hearing him say that, he wants to get traded and he wants to go to play with the 49ers now. And he's dropping all these scoops to Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport. For me, man, Aaron Rodgers has now become that player, and I think I may have mentioned this on last week's episode, but I've said it in posts previous. Aaron Rodgers has become one of those guys that is now he is now the ultimate representation and the epitome of what I mean when I say that I focus on the player, the athlete, not the person. Because I, first of all, don't really care about what the person does in their life. That's their decisions to make. But the athlete is what I focus on. I don't fixate or focus on who they're dating or who they're with or what they said about politics. I don't really care about that stuff. And he's the reason why. Because if I mix them together, I would hate Aaron Rodgers. I would be like, I don't care about this dude as a player because even though he's so great on the field, who he is as a person, I just can't stand anymore. He's just such a criminally sociopathic type of person that it turns me off from the athlete. So I literally have to separate them because I love the player Aaron Rodgers. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever live, and I've gotten the pleasure of witnessing his entire career. And he is magnificent on the field. Even when he struggles, even the shortcomings he's had over the last couple of years in the playoffs, what he did in the seasons, few can compare to or even come close to doing and replicate. I mean, the way that he could throw 40 touchdowns and less than 10 interceptions in a season is magnificent. So I try to just focus on those things because I'm telling you, the way he handles things outside of playing football, I couldn't disagree with more, and it drives me up insane. And when I hear people and I see people say the things they say about him, it's hard to defend him because he sets himself up for this when he willingly puts this stuff out here and he willingly goes on the Pat McAfee show and talks about, I'm going to make my decision soon, and then it's weeks later and we still don't have a decision. The only time he wanted to drop news, which isn't even news to begin with, is just more of the same to keep his name in the headlines. It's sociopathic behavior. To me, it's hilarious, but it's also it's an off switch for me to even pay attention or take seriously to anything he says because at this point, this is just more of the same of what we've seen over the last couple of off seasons. It's now becoming Brett Favre-esque, where we don't know what he's going to do each and every year, and it just drags on and drags on and drags on, and we're left here just rolling our eyes. Okay, you're going to play football. We know you are. You're still great. You just had back-to-back MVPs. The Packers are opening up the purse for you. Just shut up and come back, dude. Like, quit making this into a spectacle. And if you're going to retire, just fucking retire. Like, quit making this, and I don't really know if I want to play anymore. Shailene left me. I just don't want to do this anymore. I just don't want to do this. Are you playing or not? Okay, cool. We're moving on. We're making our predictions in September about where we think the Packers are going to go this year. That's what I want to leave it at.
It's funny to me because, like, all the reasons you just said why you don't like him is all the reasons I do like him. I love the fact that because he moves to the beat of his own drum, for one. Granted, the whole vaccine thing, I didn't really have much of an opinion on that, to each his own. But I love and respect that he's
a liar.
He was dishonest in that moment, for sure. But I think all of his teammates, the majority of his teammates who's played with him, outside maybe a couple that have had maybe some things to say about him, all of his teammates love him. He's a chill dude. Like I've always liked the way he is, man. I don't love or hate it. Obviously hate it. I love it because I've always loved who he is. He's always been the same guy. I don't know why we're acting like this is brand new.
Because we didn't really know a lot though. Like we didn't know all this.
His pressers have always been legendary because he's always been that guy. He's always been the dude.
He's been more of a troll. Like I remember he used to drink the purple Fanta or whatever it was after he beat the Crush.
This is who he's always been though.
I like that stuff. Yeah, I'm talking about like the immunized stuff. Like that stuff turned me off.
Very sarcastic, very rude at times, but like in a very subtle way. I've always loved him for being who he is, and I'm not gonna criticize anyone for just simply doing what they want to do when they want to do it and doing what's best for them, riding the wave of things. He doesn't have to make a choice right now. Us as fans can criticize him, and say, hey, if you're gonna retire, just say it. No, he doesn't have to fucking say it.
I get it, but I'm saying when you're giving scoops to the two biggest reporters in the world when it comes to football,
who cares,
and all you're telling us is what we already know. You're just trying to keep yourself in the headlines.
Okay, but
is that not annoying?
But he does.
When he's not telling us anything new.
Who cares if it annoys us, though, is what I'm saying. He doesn't give a shit about us or people, the fans amongst.
But he asked the question, what are my thoughts on the Aaron Rodgers situation, so I'm going to give you my thoughts.
Yeah, and I'm trying to give mine. No, but I was saying, like, I just think it's him being him. Everything he does is intentional. Right? Him going on the Pat McAfee show and having these long-ass conversations about things, sometimes about nothing.
Every Tuesday.
They're boys, dude. Like, we've had conversations literally about nothing. We've talked about fucking space and deep sea. You know what I mean? Like, just random things. You know what I mean? That's what he's doing. Like, I always loved Aaron Rodgers for who he is. Granted, he's pissed me off sometimes with certain things he said and lied about. So be it. For sure, he's a human being. He's going to make mistakes. Russell Wilson, for Christ's sake, has had issues like that too, like where he said the most cringy shit. It is what it is. That's a whole other level. But, yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, man, if he wants to ride things out, put things out there that are contradictory or make it seem like he's going to do one thing and then do the thing we knew he was going to do the entire time. It is what it is, man. I just say let the guy live. We'll live. It ain't like he's my quarterback. Honestly, if it was my quarterback, it would probably be a little frustrating as a Packers fan. I'm not going to lie. That is probably true. But I'm guaranteeing that the Packers fans would love to have him back. It's not like they wouldn't want to have that man back.
I mean, you would agree this is like diva-esque shit, though.
He's always kind of been this guy, though.
Right.
He's always kind of been this guy where he gets attention in weird ways.
But this is the reason why Brett Favre, even Peter King was on Colin Cowherd like 2 weeks ago, and Colin Cowherd asked Peter King, who's been on the know for 30 years, who do you think was the most like adored player in the 90s? He said Brett Favre. Yeah. And he goes, okay, why do you think
my guy growing up.
But what happened at the end? Why did people start to fall off on Brett Favre? Because the way he handled the end of his career, the twilight of his career. Aaron Rodgers is doing the same exact thing.
But wouldn't you rather, if you were them and from the optics, wouldn't you rather them continue to be who they are instead of change because people are telling you to do
It's not about changing.
I'd rather them consistently be themselves until the end.
Okay, you just said yourself that Aaron Rodgers goes to the beat of his own drum, which means he is the one that handles his own narrative.
Yeah.
Okay, you think he's handled this the right way, the way he's gone about things?
As far as what?
The way he's handled
the vaccine thing, I'm completely against.
Right.
He was in the wrong, and he tried to play victim. That was I didn't like that.
I'm talking about the way he's handled the decision he's going to make with the Packers or his future. Because
he wants what's best for him, and I don't blame him at all.
And I respect that. Yeah. My point is that he's the one giving out information, but the information is nothing. There's no information. He's just trying to keep himself in the headlines.
Bro. It's genius because if he puts the feelers out there amongst the league and owners and GMs that he doesn't know if he's going to do what he's going to do, whether it's to retire or whether it's to go back to the Packers or maybe look at other opportunities. You don't think other teams are like, hey, getting on the phone with them and like, hey, let's work this out. Hey, don't retire. Come here.
Right.
That's genius.
Here's the thing, though. He doesn't have a no trade clause, so he can't determine where he goes.
He can do whatever he wants.
No, that's not true, though. Okay. The Packers own him.
Yeah.
They came to an agreement that they'll chop off the last year of his contract.
If Aaron Rodgers came to the Packers and said, hey, this team wants to bring me in.
They can say no.
Do you think they're going to?
Yeah.
I don't, dude. I don't think that because I think he carries so much weight. I think
if the 49ers came up to the Packers right now and said we want him, and he says, "Hey, the 49ers want me," you really think that's going to happen? No, because it just happened last offseason.
If they put together some kind of sexy trade or something to acquire,
but the Niners that literally happened last offseason before they even drafted Trey Lance.
Yeah.
So the incentive's not there anymore because they just drafted Trey Lance and they gave up 3 first-round picks to get him.
Back-to-back
so why would you give those 3 first-round picks up for Trey Lance, have Trey Lance, and then try to trade for Aaron Rodgers? It doesn't make sense. That's the point I'm making. Is the ideal teams, the teams that are ideal for Aaron Rodgers, they're not going to trade him to because they're not trying to give him the best opportunity. They're trying to get the most out of the trade asset. He's the greatest player in Packers history. Mm-hmm. You don't just trade that guy to a place where he wants to go. The Matt Stafford situation is different because the Rams, or the Lions, and Matt Stafford, they both knew it was mutually best that they part ways because Matt was at the point of his career where he's never won and he gets an opportunity to, and there's a team like the Rams that needed a quarterback that could give them a quarterback in return like Jared Goff. That isn't out there for Aaron Rodgers because the Packers in his situation are different because they're Super Bowl contenders. They're not just going to give that away. The Lions knew they weren't Super Bowl contenders. So they got to get the best out of him to make sense of that trade because they got to sell that to not just fans. The Packers fans aren't just fans. They're also owners. So you have to convince the owners, essentially, hey, we're going to give up the back-to-back MVP for a second-round pick. No one's buying that.
If Devontae Adams goes elsewhere, you don't think they blow it up and if Aaron Rodgers says, hey, I want out? If Devontae Adams is gone.
I think if Devontae Adams is gone,
that's what I'm saying.
Aaron Rodgers retires.
Yeah, okay.
But if he plays, he's playing for the Packers.
Okay, but if he retires, you don't think he's gonna get his way and go play somewhere else that maybe somebody else pick?
No, because if he retires, he's still under contract for another year.
Okay, I'm just saying like the strategy he's probably going out here is just to put out feelers to see if something else can be worked out. And I think his reputation holds more weight amongst the Packers. If he really truly wanted out, I think they would possibly respect that. That's how I see it.
Why did they do that last offseason?
because I think they work something out. Because if Devontae Adams is gone, that's an entirely different
I
dynamic.
get it. I'm just saying that I think Devontae Adams is going to be back with Green Bay.
Yes.
I think that
I
Aaron
think that's
Rodgers
the
is back.
most possible outcome if
This
they
is
both
why it
come back.
frustrates me because I think it's all going to be the same.
don't really
and we're
give
sitting
a
here
shit
talking about
about
this.
that.
I get it, but I'm
Yeah.
saying Eddie proposed the question about what's my thoughts on how he handles these things. I don't think he handles it well. I think he's obsessed with himself.
I think he's trying to find what's
He's a
best for him, bro. And I
sociopathic
respect
type of
that.
person that wants everybody to talk about him constantly. And here we are talking about the same situation where you're going to see him in his flip-flops and his little Billabong shorts walking into Green Bay, doing the mahalo, going in there and
My
getting
guy.
ready for training camp. And
My
we're all going to enjoy watching him on Sundays.
Yeah.
Playing at a high level again, and we're gonna go. Hey, remember that for the second straight offseason when it was a bunch of bullshit
He's
for no
probably in the
reason?
corner laughing about it.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, that's where we're at.
That's my guy.
All right, good stuff. We need to move directly to a situation where I talked to Eddie and Trevor. I said, look, free agency is starting next week, and I'm so stoked about this, man. So what I wanted to do is get 5 free agency once for the Chiefs because I think there are a lot of guys. We've already discussed a little bit about it leading into the show. We asked Harold Kuntz about it as well. I want to start this off with my number 5 biggest ones in free agency this year for the Chiefs. And again, to preface this, I made these realistic. I know there's like the best of the names. Yeah. I didn't do that because salary cap wise, the Chiefs are not going to realistically get all these guys. And I'm actually going to start it off at a position that I don't think the Chiefs value at a very high level, and it's cornerback. My number 5 position is a cornerback by the name of Kyle Fuller. We've already had his brother here in Kansas City, Kendall Fuller. He played here for a couple of years. I think the Chiefs can go out and get Kyle Fuller. He just turned 30 in February. He played his last season with the Broncos, so he's fairly familiar with the AFC West. He has 19 interceptions in 7 seasons, and has never missed a game in his career. Durable veteran at a position of need, assuming that Charvarius Ward is going to get a lucrative contract elsewhere. I think Kyle Fuller is one of the most realistic and perfect fits for the Chiefs moving forward this season at corner, getting an experienced veteran, a guy that is going to play each and every week. You've already had his brother here. To me, Kyle Fuller's the better player between the two.
Yeah.
I think you're getting the better version of the Fuller brothers, and he's not going to cost you anything. Right now, his market value is about 1 year, about $5 to $6 million. So you can get him really cheap, plug and play, familiar systems, familiar defenses. I think that for Kyle Fuller, to me, because cornerback to me is not a position the Chiefs are going to go overspend on or go and draft in the first round, because Brett Veach has shown that time and time again. Our best corner is L'Jarius C. They went and got in the 4th round. He's a flyer pick. And he ended up blossoming and ended up working out. But the Chiefs don't take cornerbacks in the first. They don't go out and drop $50, $60 million on cornerbacks. Rashad Breeland's the most notable free agent wide receiver the Chiefs have signed. It was a 1-year, $4 million deal.
We were dying for a corner at that time.
Exactly, and I think that they're starting to get there now because I think Charvarius Ward's going to get paid somewhere else.
Maybe.
And I think Kyle Fuller would be the perfect guy. Trevor, number 5 for you.
Yeah, my 5th priority would be linebacker. I think with Anthony Hitchens going, I think we need another veteran. I think we go find another veteran linebacker to kind of help still mold the minds and the play of Bolton and Gay. I love those 2 guys for our future, but I still think and Gay has had issues with staying healthy,
Yep.
so that's not always a guarantee. So I think bringing in a Dante Hightower, a Gerard Davis, a guy that's been stuck with the Jets, a guy that would still want to prove himself a little bit. There's another veteran guy who's been around. I think my first guy would be Dante Hightower, just because he's been a part of some great defenses and he's a very experienced guy from the Belichick the roster. A guy I think that's the perfect fit. I think he would come over. I don't think he's going to demand that much money. He's an aged guy at this point of his career, but he's had a lot of success. He's seen a lot. He's had so much playoff experience. Bringing in a guy like that for me because we're going to need to bring in another veteran. I'm pretty sure we'll probably draft another, either middle linebacker, outside linebacker, some linebacker of some sort in this draft, because I think this is going to be a very defensive heavy draft for us. But getting another veteran linebacker on the cheap, not what Anthony Hitchens would be demanding or what we'd be paying him, and I think performing much better than Hitchens. Hitchens was very spotty as far as performance goes. He had a couple good games, but here and there. But bringing another guy to help kind of just do the Melvin Ingram effect in the linebacker room for Willie Gay and Nick Bolton, who I think are the truth, who I think are our guys for the future. But having another guy leadership-wise be that Tyrann Mathieu for that linebacker room.
All right. My number 5. All right, I don't think I've seen or heard anybody talk about this, but here I am. At number 5, I have Ryan Fitzpatrick. Why do I have a quarterback in the free agent once? Because I think Chad Henne has given us what he can, and I think it's time. It's kind of like how I felt with like Eric Bieniemy. I think it was time to part ways. So I think Ryan Fitzpatrick coming in here and being that backup to Patrick Mahomes, I feel like it would add just a little bit of that Fitz magic that he brings with him, the positivity he brings with him, the little swag he has. I would love for a backup quarterback to have that kind of energy and stuff like that. I guess be more involved, kind of help Patrick, little things here and there. Obviously, he's not a great quarterback, but when he does come play, when he does play, he performs to an all right level, to a good level, good enough to be a Patrick Mahomes backup. So I do feel like adding Ryan Fitzpatrick to this offense, but.
There'd be like 3 teams left for Ryan Fitzpatrick to not play for in the league.
Exactly.
I think he's been on fucking 10, 11 teams in his career.
I would love for us to move on from Chad Henne and bring in Fitzpatrick.
So Fitzpatrick would be more of just like because he's the type of guy that can give you like 2 or 3 games of just magical football.
Because you know. Obviously, we have to be careful and obviously not get Patrick Mahomes hurt. But I think he's one of those guys that can come in at any time of the game and pull out a victory with the roster that we'd have. So hey, I'm all about that, man. So
that's interesting. I don't think that the Chiefs are going to move on from Chad Henne as long as he wants to play, but I didn't think about that one. I mean, he's obviously. I think if I had to choose between the 2 quarterbacks of who I'd want to play in the stead of Patrick Mahomes, it would be Ryan Fitzpatrick. But even he's missed all of last season with a serious hip injury, so that is interesting. My number 4 is a name that probably neither one of you guys know, but it makes a lot of sense to me because I was really trying to dive deep because I told you guys that right tackle is an important position for the Chiefs to fill this year. Mike Remmers is 33 years old, coming off of pretty much a season-ending injury last year with the shoulder, I believe it was. He didn't really play a lot. Lucas Niang has a horrific knee injury that he's probably going to be sidelined all of next season. I like Lucas Niang, but he just couldn't stay healthy. A lot of people assume that Mike Remmers will be back. I don't. I'd like to see the Chiefs move on from him. He has a lot of durability issues, which leads me to a guy named Germain Ifedi. He's a first-round pick out of the Seahawks in 2016. Played his last 2 seasons with the Bears, which means there's a Matt Nagy connection. He's only 27 years old. He missed 8 games last season due to a knee injury, but before last season, he only missed 4 starts in his previous 5 seasons, and 3 of them were in his rookie year. Not a guy that's going to cost a lot of money at all. In fact, with the 2 years with the Bears, he only made $5.8 million total. He would be an upgrade for Mike Remmers and Lucas Niang while costing maybe $2 to $5 million to snag him. To me, this makes a lot of sense because it shores up right tackle, which is a for some reason it doesn't get talked about because I think everybody's so confident in the offensive line now. I would still like to see them go out there and get an experienced veteran as opposed to drafting a guy and expecting him like a 3rd or 4th round pick to come in here and work immediately because that's just not realistic. It's not something you want to do. I want to see some veteran depth. For me, it's Germain Ifedi. I think the Chiefs should go and get him.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. It's definitely a need. I think the Chiefs definitely take care of that spot somehow, whether it's a draft. I think there's a good chance we draft another right tackle. So for my 4th priority on my list here, with the Tyrann Mathieu situation going on, we don't really know exactly what's going to take place. Because I would say he would be, because he's obviously not under contract at the moment, he would be a free agent acquisition. So I think it's either whether we extend him or not, I would obviously want to bring Tyrann back. That would be a priority of mine. But if that doesn't happen, I think trying to find another veteran free safety would be very, very key. Granted, there's not a lot of names out there, so I think drafting another one is a possibility if we don't go Tyrann. But we're gonna need, like Harold was even talking about, losing him would be really honestly detrimental to this defense at this point. Just for the leadership alone and the vocal leadership in the locker room on the field, having guys in place. I mean, the Devin McCourty's available. Marcus Williams from New Orleans is a good player. Marcus May, Quandre Diggs is a good player. But Keanu Neal's aging. There's not a lot of options out there. So I think that makes it even that much more important to, if we did lose Tyrann, who would we bring in, man, that would bring what he brings? I don't think there's anyone out there better than him. It's, what I mean? So I think bringing back the free agent that is Tyrann Mathieu right now to this Chiefs defense is huge. That's why it's fourth on my list. So I think losing him would be far more detrimental and harder to replace than damn near any player on this team. That is, a possible move. So I think keeping Tyron here is my fourth option.
My fourth option, funny thing, it's also safety. With the uncertainty of of what Tyrann Mathieu is going to be like this next season. We don't know if he's coming back. We don't know if he's going somewhere else.
We don't know what Juan Thornhill is going to look like this next season.
Exactly. We don't know if Juan Thornhill can step up and fill those shoes. So my pick for safety, I went with Marcus Williams from the New Orleans Saints. I think he would be a great addition. He wouldn't be too expensive. I believe his last contract was for around $10 million, not years.
Yep.
He's played for a long time.
Yeah, so I do think, and he's a damn good safety. He's not he's not your average or anything.
Comes from a good scheme too. Good
I
scheme.
think he would come in and fit just perfect for this team. I think he can come in here and be that, try and be that leader that Tyrann Mathieu once was. So I feel like if we were to lose Tyrann Mathieu, which I would love to bring him back, that'll be my number one free agent to come back. But if we can't, I'm gonna go with Marcus Williams on this one.
I like it.
I like that a lot too. So when it comes to my third option or my third piece, this is where it starts to get to the brass tacks of how the Chiefs continue to win and get into the Super Bowl again. We talk about the defensive ends and talks about edge rush. Von Miller would be the quintessential perfect free agent to sign for the Chiefs because he's still really, really good. He's only 32 years old. He's got some juice left. He had a great season this year with both the Broncos and the Rams. He played a big factor in them winning a Super Bowl. I think he's going to be priced out, though. I think that there's going to be a team out there that gives him, $18 to $20 million for this next season. I don't think the Chiefs are in the market to pay somebody $18 to $20 million that's a free agent veteran at that position at his age. So Von Miller would be the guy that I would love to have. I think they're going to have to settle for Melvin Ingram again. I think Melvin Ingram is the guy that wants to still be here in Kansas City. I think the Chiefs really want to keep him. He'll be 33 years old next season. That's not the best thing. He's missed over 14 games in the last 3 seasons. He hasn't had, actually, according to what I was reading, Melvin Ingram hasn't had more than 7 sacks in a season since 2017. So that's something to be a little concerned about. He's obviously on the decline, but you saw the difference he made in this defense. I would like to believe that Melvin Ingram could create that again. I think that if you pair him up for a full season, a full offseason, and a full season with Chris Jones, and maybe a young pass rusher, like I said, maybe you go and trade for a Josh Allen, or you go and draft a guy.
Yes.
He can help mentor those guys and make them into a better player to where he can become more of a complementary piece as opposed to a primary focus. Because at 33 years old with a guy that already has injury concerns, I think that's a little unfair to do. I think Melvin Ingram, right now as it currently stands, his market is around $8 million for next year. Chiefs can 100% afford that. Get him on a 1-year, $8 million deal, $8 to $10 million. Bring Melvin Ingram back for 1 more year. Have him as your veteran edge rush. I think he's the guy that can be just as effective, if not more than Frank Clark, for much less price-wise, much less expectation when it comes to what you traded and what you paid Frank Clark for. I would like to see Melvin Ingram back. So for number 3, that's my guy.
Okay.
I love that, man.
Your fifth was
Cornerback. My third priority is cornerback.
The reason I put that much importance on it is we don't really know what's going on, what's going to happen with our corners, or our entire outside of L'Jarius Sneed. We don't know who that room is going to be, safeties and corners. So a lot of DBs are in flux here, which I think that important. I do believe we're going to get a couple, 1 or 2 in this draft. We're going to need some young guys to build up with, and the success of L'Jarius Sneed, I think, will inspire that even more, to have some young blood back there, some motivated guys. But I think, if we don't bring back Charvarius Ward, which is most likely he's probably going to go get paid elsewhere, which he's earned that. But there are some nice names, like you said, with Kyle Fuller, who I love. That'd be a great addition. Stephon Gilmore's still out there. Chris Harris is still out there. Patrick Peterson, aging guy. We wanted him a couple years ago. Still, it would be great to have that veteran presence in that backfield.
Yeah, for sure.
Xavier Rhodes, Jimmy Smith. There's some really, really good corners out there that are available. And if we can go nab 1 or 2 of those names, oh my God, that can change a lot. Just having that veteran leadership with Tyron. I like Jimmy Smith a lot. I think he'd be a great addition. He's a taller guy too, which I think
played with the Ravens, did he?
Yeah. So he's a free agent. He's had some issues with staying healthy. That's the only thing that concerned me. But Stephon Gilmore, still not. That's why
I chose Kyle Fuller over those guys. Not that he's better than them. I don't think he is.
They're all older.
But he's more durable. He's never missed a game.
Yeah. But Stephon Gilmore has been a true number 1 lockdown corner for some years.
Yeah.
He's won Super Bowl MVP. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he win Super Bowl MVP?
You talking about?
Stephon Gilmore. Wasn't he a not a Super Bowl MVP?
I don't think he was Super Bowl MVP.
He was Defensive Player of the Year.
He's been Defensive Player of the Year. That was 2019, 2020.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, these guys got resumes. I mean, J.C. Jackson's obviously a free agent, but I think he's wanting top tier money, which he's deserving. He was incredible this past season, arguably the best corner in the league last year. So for me, with all the names in flux, we don't know who's going to be here. We don't know if Charvarius is going to be here or not. Rashad Fenton's a free agent as well. We don't know if he. I think we can keep him here.
No, Rashad's got one more year.
Oh, he's got okay. So
he's
never
got
mind
one
on
more
that.
year.
I love Rashad Fenton. I like what he brings as far as attitude and skill. But there's gonna be a lot of things in flux, a lot of movement there. So I think there's too many good names, veteran-wise, and the cornerback and DB bowl to pick from here. So there's a lot of names I think go and get Joe Hayden's still out there too. I mean, not to mention him. That's still a very viable option. So I think cornerback, getting some good veterans in here. And then some other guys that are talented, like you said, Kyle Fuller, not an old guy, but a veteran, a savvy veteran, a very smart player. And his brother's been here, so he probably has good things to say about Kansas City. So getting him here probably wouldn't be too much of a twist of the arm.
Right.
So I think figuring out cornerback situation is very key moving forward. So that's my third on my list.
Shit. My third on my list is on the defensive line. It's more on the defensive tackle kind of thing. That help for Chris Jones. And obviously a veteran presence. I think this player has that mean veteran presence. He's a bad dude, and that's Ndamukong Suh. And he's gonna be on a 1-year deal. I think his last contract was 1-year deal for like $9 million. He's 35. He's an aging veteran.
Yeah.
But he brings that
durable.
mean attitude.
He's durable.
Yes, he brings that mean attitude that this I think that this front seven needs. I think he brings that energy, that power that can get to a quarterback, and I think that will unleash Chris Jones as well. Because not only you're gonna have Ndamukong Suh, you're gonna have Chris Jones to worry about.
Can you imagine Chris Jones and Ndamukong Suh next to each other?
And
Sweet Jesus!
And it's not gonna be an expensive. It's not gonna be expensive either.
Yeah.
No.
So
at this point, no.
At this point in his career, he's 35. He's 35. I would love to have that with Suh and Chris Jones up there. That would be a fucking menace to society.
And if Ndamukong Suh, just to your point, if he was to continue playing football. Yeah. He's going to go to a team that's going to absolutely have a chance at a Super Bowl because he won one with the Buccaneers. But if you want to talk about Hall of Fame prestige, he goes and gives himself another Super Bowl
with a different team.
It'd be similar to the Suggs when we signed Suggs and brought him here. That's a similar situation, similar player.
And I believe Bruce Arians came out saying that Suh does want to come back and play football. So,
he's still good enough. I mean, he's not great anymore, but he's still good enough.
He's good enough to where he can help this Chiefs.
We'll get you a penalty or two every week.
I'll take it because he can definitely help Chris Jones get to the quarterback even faster.
I didn't think about that one. That's actually a good. I actually like that. I would definitely welcome Ndamukong Suh to this defense. My number 2, it's a very obvious one. It's a top priority. The Chiefs have said it's a top priority. He wants to be here. I think it's Tyrann Mathieu. I think that my number 2 on my list is getting Tyrann Mathieu back here in Kansas City. I've said this, and I've kept my mind very open on the Tyrann Mathieu situation on both ends, playing out both scenarios. If the Chiefs don't bring him back, I understand it from a business sense because you don't want to overspend on an aging safety. He's not young anymore. He's not. He's 29 years old. He'll be 30 next year. My hope, though, is that they do bring him back because of the fact, like Harold said, you don't have him on this defense. Yes, you can ask L'Jarius Sneed to fill that void, but that's asking a lot. And it's not that L'Jarius Sneed couldn't be a good leader amongst men and read defenses and call out plays and those things. I'm not trying to underestimate L'Jarius. I'm trying to bolster the value of Tyrann because Tyrann Mathieu is literally a coach on the field. And my hope is that the Chiefs find a way to get this done. Now, I've said, I think the market, because a Spot Rack is what I go to. That's my Bible, man. Spot Rack has his market value, Tyrann Mathieu, currently right under $15 million per year. It's 14.8. I think what you're going to get is a few teams out there like the Colts and Ravens and teams like that really want a safety. They're going to say,
Washington probably.
Yes, we'll give you $16 million per year over the next 3 to 4 years. 50% of that's guaranteed. If you want that, let us know. He's going to come back to the Chiefs and say, hey, look, this is what I got. I got an opportunity to make about $48-50 million over the next 3 to 4 years. Can you guys at least match that? I don't think the Chiefs would. I think the Chiefs would come at him right around $14.5 to $15 million and say, we'll give you $14.5 for the next 3 years guaranteed. Do you take it or not? That's going to come down to Tyrann Mathieu because I do think the Chiefs are going to offer him money.
Yeah.
Will they give it? Will he accept it? That's the question. As Harold Kuntz said, his roots are deeply planted here in Kansas City. He wants to be here. Yeah. I'm hoping they get it done because this defense is going to be better. This team's going to be better if they keep Tyrann Mathieu for the next couple of seasons. We need him. So that's why he's at number 2 on my biggest want list for free agency. Trevor?
Yeah, number 2 for me is defensive line, outside linebacker, pass rush. And I love Von Miller would be an incredible addition. He was very good last year compared to I know he dealt with a couple lingering issues.
Better than Frank Clark.
But yeah, absolutely, he was. I think he was 4th in the league at this position, ranking wise. So I mean, at that age, I mean, what he's done, this guy has been one of the all-time greatest defensive players at that position of all time.
Yes,
Von Miller is one of the best at that position all time. So I mean, if you can get a guy like that on a free agency on a fairly cheap deal,
he loves Patrick Mahomes.
Not much, just coming off of I mean, granted, he is coming off of a Super Bowl victory, which can be a little. It can make you kind of like, oh, did he just blow his load? And now he's going to kind of...
his price goes up, too.
Of course, but I mean, I'm thinking mentally. The guy just came off of a ring. Is he really going to be that much more hungry to go get another one? Sometimes as a veteran, too, once you get that success, at that late in your career, you're kind of like, okay, well, I can kind of coast the rest of my career and just call it quits and have had a great career, man. I'm one of the best to ever do it. That kind of scares me off of him a little bit, but there is other guys. I mean, Chandler Jones, a guy that's never really accomplished shit in his career outside of racking up great numbers. He's been incredible. And he's even older than Von Miller. He's been around. So I love what he brings, though. I love the pressure and his ability to accumulate sacks. That's what we've been missing is, somebody to accumulate sacks and finish plays. He's an angry guy. I love his mentality. Jadeveon Clowney is another guy I don't like. I do like Randy Gregory, though. Yeah. Justin Houston. There's some other names out there. So that would be my second on my list.
Shit. My second on my list, I know you guys want to have said corner already. I don't think we are desperate for a corner. I would love and welcome a corner, but I think Veach has done enough to where we can be okay with the corners we got. If there's any in the draft, we'll welcome them. It is what it is. I'm not too concerned in that position. My number 2 pick, it's a teammate of Sue. He's a pass rusher, and Jason Pierre-Paul. He's an aging veteran. Yes, I get it. He won't be too expensive either. I think his previous contract was around $10 million also. Obviously, you give him a 1-year deal, a kind of prove-it deal, and then obviously he can go either a Super Bowl champion and another Super Bowl ring to his collection. I love his aggressiveness, the way he comes in and gets to the quarterback. Him and Sue being in the same, obviously coming from the same team and going into this Chiefs defensive line. Yes, you can say they're aging and all that stuff, but they still have juice left. Like you said, you wanted to bring Von Miller. I think JPP can come in and be that guy and probably could potentially give you a little bit more than what Von Miller could give you, because we don't know how healthy Von Miller is. Yes, he just won a Super Bowl.
How motivated.
But how motivated he is. So I think Jason Pierre-Paul can come in and also be that guy and help out Chris Jones become the man. The one that we think that we believe that Chris Jones can be.
Yeah.
So I believe having Sue and Paul coming into this team, obviously coming from the same team, chemistry, everything's there. I would love.
Eddie's got us as the Kansas City Buccaneers at this point, man.
Damn right. That defense.
He wins another ring, man. He might not have enough fingers at this point. You know what I mean? To fit him on. You know what I'm just saying? Like, he's running out a lot quicker than most. But
he has 2, right? No.
He won one with the Giants. He won with the Buccaneers. Yeah. So you got to be careful, man. He may have to pick his spots here a little bit better. My number 1. This has been back and forth because of the fact that it's a want. And this is what this list is wants. Yep. To me, the number 1, it's got to be a wide receiver. I want to see the Chiefs land themselves. Last offseason, there wasn't as many big names. There are good names out there. Curtis Samuel, Kenny Golladay, other guys. Juju Smith-Schuster for a hot minute. There were guys out there that the Chiefs could have snagged. They ended up not getting any of them after they, tried to go full-fledged against Juju. They may happen again this offseason. They may go after Juju. I think Allen Robinson makes a ton of sense. He was at the top of my board just a couple days ago, actually. Chris Godwin, I think he's going to stay with the Bucs. The Bucs are going to give him whatever he wants, and he's going to stay there. He may not even be able to start the season with his knee injury just being on December 19th. There's guys out there that I could really see the Chiefs, making sense of. It is Amari Cooper, though. He's my number one, without question, want this offseason. I can't stress it enough, and I'm not going to try to reignite what I said to start the show off, but guys, it's common sense. When you can go and get a 27-year-old phenom receiver that has been durable in his career, that's battled through injuries, and quite frankly, hasn't had a chance to really win. He's never really had that. He played with the Raiders when they were dog shit. Yep. He's played with the Cowboys, who are a decent franchise that have gotten to the playoffs but have failed miserably when they've gotten there. You upgraded every situation. Think about it. Has a better quarterback, a better head coach than he's ever had. He has better weapons around him than he's ever had, including the Cowboys. No disrespect to their weapons. They have awesome weapons. Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill would be by far the best weapons he's ever played with.
Without a doubt.
They would have every motivating factor to have Amari Cooper, and Amari Cooper would have every motivating factor to come here, because let's say he only gets a one-year deal worth $15 to $20 million. You're getting paid. You're playing for a great team. More than likely would get back to the Super Bowl. And then if things don't work out and you don't negotiate with the Chiefs afterwards, you go get paid from somebody else with the Super Bowl attached to your name. That just makes so much sense for Amari Cooper. I think it makes the most sense for everybody involved. I think the Chiefs need to go out and make it happen. That's my number one want.
I'm right there with you, man.
Yes.
My number one priority, and no-brainer, big splash name signing out of free agency has got to be a wide receiver. There's way too many names out there. Any one of these guys would die to come play in this offense in Kansas City. Any one of these guys would die to come play with Patrick Mahomes alongside Kelce and Tyreek. It is the best spot for any free agent wide receiver, in my mind, to find success. And I think at this point of the career for Amari Cooper, who is also my favorite pick of this litter, is primed in his career to find success. He's got numbers. He's put up big numbers. He's had good seasons. And I mean, think about it, man. If we sign Amari Cooper here, imagine Raider Week with Amari Cooper being in the red and gold. I mean, how poetic would that be? The guy who's one of the few guys that's really burnt us in a couple of these matchups,
right?
And went off against us and damn near single-handedly beat us a couple times, and had success against us, is Amari Cooper. And then having him in those Raider Week, those matchups would just be such a poetic, fun thing to add to the fuel, add to the fire, being the fuel. With Amari Cooper on our side would be so poetic, and I think without a doubt think he's the best overall talent of the rest of these guys. Juju was at the top of my list before Amari, because I think we've been missing that strong, thick, toes in the turf kind of guy that runs hard and is tough to bring down. Juju is that guy. He's really good with the ball in his hands. And he's a big body guy. I think we that's really what we want. And I think Amari Cooper is that plus that. He's a very good deep threat. He's arguably one of the top tier elite route runners in this league, which Juju is not. Juju's a good route runner, but he's not an elite route runner. Amari Cooper is an elite route runner and has been since his college days. He would fit right into this offense and maybe take this offense to things we've never even seen, heights we've never reached. So I think acquiring him would be the biggest. It is kind of a pipe dream right now because numbers wise, we don't know what he would be demanding, what he'd be looking for. He still would be semi under contract, right? The Cowboys would still have him. They would still be paying some of his salary, correct? If they cut him, because this is last year on his deal.
Yes, this is last year on his deal. I don't know what the particulars would be,
right,
but I know
so
that cutting him would save them money, obviously, because it's a $20 million. I think this year is his $20 million option.
But like you said, if the Frank Clark thing works out the way we do, if he is gone and we save that money, putting that money towards an elite wide receiver in my mind, or just arguably elite route running wide receiver in my mind, and an Amari Cooper, I think is the best investment we can do in this offseason. But if we end up getting, a Juju or an Allen Robinson, bringing and all of it, packaging that with whoever we get with bringing Sammy Watkins back on the cheap, that would be incredible, man. And I think adding more to this offense, like Harold said as well. This is an offensive league. We've been one of the top offenses in the past handful of years. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. Adding more players, adding more talent as third and fourth options in this offense is just going to make us that much more deadly, man. And yeah, I mean, in my mind, man, there's so many names out there. The Godwin, I know you mentioned that he is banged up, but there's a lot of other guys that we can bring in. Plus, an elite option like an Amari Cooper. So I think Amari Cooper definitely tops my list as well. I'm right there lock and step with you on that. I hope we make it happen, man. I really do.
Yeah, my number one spot is wide receiver as well. That is a must for the Chiefs. Not a want. They need it. It's a must. Who is it gonna be? My pick is Juju. I think the Chiefs made it very clear last year. Andy Reid made it very clear last year that Juju is their guy. That's the guy that they want. And I think this year is no different. I think this year they're gonna make that a priority. I think that's gonna be one of their main priorities going into the start of this new season next week.
Yeah.
And I do think Juju is gonna be a Chief next season because the Chiefs have pursued him before, and I think they still are pursuing him and are very, 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 very hard on him. So I do think Juju is gonna be that guy. Would I love to see another guy come here? Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing. Like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing Amari Cooper here.
A lot of people want Mike Williams.
Yeah, I just don't think he's a. I don't know what his. I guess you could say his mentality is gonna be. Does he want to go into to be a third, fourth option in a team, or does he want to go somewhere, get his money, and be the number one option?
Just for the record, Spot Track again, who I vehemently love. Mike Giannetti, the guy that founded it, did say this week that he does see Amari Cooper being a guy that goes on a one-year deal this year. Because, again, as we talk about Allen Robinson, Juju, Mike Williams, and these other big-time free agent wide receivers, they're going to bet on themselves this year on a one-year deal and then maximize off of that next year and get a big-time contract.
Yeah, so if he joins the Chiefs and goes and gets a ring, there's no other flex you can have.
Or just playoff success, period.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't had any of that.
I mean, you could go to a trash team or you're the number one option, just get funneled with targets. I mean, that's not really going to...
Yeah, you become Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, that's
what you can become.
Help too much.
Yeah.
I mean, it all depends on what the. I just do think that the Chiefs are in love with Juju, and I think that's their main focus this year.
And I do want to emphasize.
I would love that signing, man.
I do want to emphasize. I will not be mad if the Chiefs end up getting Juju and not Amari Cooper.
He was on top of my
I just
list
think that
before
Amari is
Amari.
the best option for the Chiefs. Is that saying there aren't other great options? Yes, Juju's one of them. Juju is a great option, and I would gladly accept him. We have one more order of business to get to, guys. What is it called? Hold this L. Each and every week, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports, whether they're friendly or not friendly L's in the world of sports. We promise you, who's ever holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those motherfucking L's in the world of sports. Trevor Twidwell, I'm starting with you this week. I'm mixing it up. Who is holding the L this week for you?
I'm going to make this short and sweet. Laker fans, man. Listen, we got to have a talk.
Chit-chat.
Yeah, I mean, not even 2 whole years ago, y'all got a ring from the king. And now you want to boo this man? It's the most ridiculous. Listen, Laker fans are some of the greatest fans you will ever meet in sports. A lot of them are very well versed. A lot of them know the history of the game. A lot of them, and they are extremely, it's undeniable, they are extremely passionate about their team, and we can relate because we are very passionate about our teams as well here, through the good and the bad. But I'm not for booing one of the greatest, if not, some people's book, mine included, the greatest player of all time. It was 2-3 nights ago they were playing, they were getting blown out by the Pelicans. Inexcusable loss. It was a bad loss, bad performance overall from the team. I mean, granted, they're missing, maybe their most versatile player and a key player, and Anthony Davis not being out there is huge defensively. So they've been a bad team most of this year, man. They have not they have not caught a stride and really hit it. Russ has been a massive disappointment. This team's just not good. But not even, like I said, like I alluded to in the beginning of what I was saying, not even 2 whole years ago, they put a banner up there for you guys. There's a lot of teams in this league that have 0. You all have the most now because of LeBron James, and you're gonna boo him because he has a turnover. You're gonna start talking shit to him on the sidelines. That's lack of class, man. It just is. It's lack of class. LeBron James came over and developed and delivered a ring on his promise. He came here to win the championship, and he did that. And arguably the hardest year in NBA history with the bubble. Tell me that's not one of the hardest. I mean, we've had conversations on this in the past. It's not even an argument anymore. That was one of the toughest things for all those players to go through. And he came out on top. And he was arguing. And not only did he came out on top, before the bubble even happened, the Lakers were the best team in the NBA. He delivered one of the greatest seasons in Lakers history. He was one of the best players in Lakers history in that season. Is averaging some of the best numbers any Laker of all time has ever averaged this season. At 37 years old. And you're going to boo this man? It's unacceptable, bro. Like, that's optically from another fan of I love basketball is my favorite sport in the world. As a diehard basketball fan, I love watching all teams. I'll watch whatever. Watching that live, it was embarrassing. No, I'm not talking about the play. The play was already bad. Everyone knows it. But booing the man that brought you a ring, you all were crowning him as the GOAT. You all were saying, I had Laker fans in my DMs. Laker fans texted me that day when they won. They put that game away against the Miami Heat. Tell me, oh, he's always been the GOAT in my mind. Yeah, he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. I'm so glad we brought him here. Now y'all are out there booing this man, bro. It's y'all are slaves to your emotions. It's embarrassing as a fan base. And it wasn't just a couple fans. There was fans all over talking shit to Trevor Ariza on the bench, to Dwight Howard on the bench, to Russell Westbrook, to talking shit to LeBron
That's
on
okay
the
with
sidelines.
Russ. They can do that to Russ, but
That's warranted. But to do that to the king, man, it's just embarrassing. It's a bad look. I don't understand it. I really don't. It's the day and age we live in. People are so quick to flip their emotions when something's not happening in that moment for them that they like. When, like I said, not even 2 whole years ago, 2 whole calendar years ago yet, he was putting up a banner in that arena. That's a terrible look from a sports fan, in my opinion. So Laker fans in general, not singling any one individual, because I know there's some logical ones out there, and I know a few of them. You're great, and y'all respect what you have and what he's produced for you. Do me a favor and
hold this L. Before we move to Eddie, I just want to say this about that. They won in 2019 when they won the title. They won more playoff series in that playoff run than they did in Kobe Bryant's last 6 seasons.
Yeah.
So
were they booing him?
I just want to throw that out there. Not only did they win more titles than Kobe did over his last 6 seasons, they won more playoff series in that one playoff run than they did the previous 6 seasons of Kobe Bryant's career to end his career. Just throwing that out there. So, Mr. Yo Eddie Ortiz, who is holding the L for you this week? And is it? They ain't F1. They ain't even racing yet. So I'm not even gonna. Is it F1?
We'll see.
Tell me. I want to know.
I'm anticipating.
Tell me what it is.
Nah, man. I'm gonna give an L to Haas Racing, Formula One racing team.
Hey!
It's been a tough week for them. Obviously, with the whole thing going on in Europe, it affected them directly. They just lost their main sponsor, and their driver. Why? Because
Tampax service.
Why? Because they're both Russian.
Oh.
It's been a rough week for Haas. Obviously, like I said, losing the main sponsor, losing that income, losing that money. They're losing money this season, guaranteed. But obviously, Gene Haas said that he doesn't care if a Formula One, his Formula One team loses money every year. He can afford it. He's just using Formula One as a kind of like what do you call that? Like not a sponsor, but like an
endorsement,
like a promoter kind of thing.
Promotion, yeah.
Yeah, because he has the name on his car, which
That's for clout, pretty much.
Yeah, that's what he's using the sport for. So the disrespect that has on its own to his Haas Formula team, like
the purity of the sport.
Yeah, like I don't know what else can you like. Fuck, like you're losing your main sponsor, you're losing money, you're losing everything, and then you have your owner coming out saying that, I don't care if it loses money. He's like, I just use it for like promoting my company. So that's all I care about. Like, whew, that's tough for like the whole team to like that's tough on the morale. Like, you know what I mean? Like I said, they also lost a driver. They didn't just lose the sponsor; they lost a driver. Now they have to go out there and find a driver with the season starting in about 2-3 weeks. So now you have to get this driver acclimated into the team, into the new car. It's going to be a complete mess. I think this team's not going to do well this season. Obviously, they don't have the money or the funds to upgrade their car throughout the year. So it's just going to be a bad season, just like it was last year. And last year, as I said, this is going to be a bad year because we're waiting for next year. We're spending all our money for next year. Next year is here, and all this shit happens. So, yikes! It's gonna be rough for the next couple years. So, yeah, Haas Formula One racing team, you're gonna have to do me a favor and
hold this L. Cloud chasers, gotta love them. I think the most embarrassing aspect to sports is when you talk about eras and you talk about guys that have come from previous eras, how they try to discredit players of today or the guys that are coming up to make themselves look better.
I'm glad you're doing this one.
This has always been my biggest pet peeve when it comes to sports. And it happens primarily in basketball. For whatever reason, maybe because it's more of a one-on-one type of sport. I know it's a team sport, obviously, but a lot of players get exalted because their faces are out there. In NFL, you have your helmets on. In baseball, you wear helmets, you wear caps. In basketball, you're all out there, you know? And I think it's more of a polarizing sport, and I think that guys take that personally. Man, I'm getting really sick of some of these old heads that are talking. We heard Tracy McGrady say some stuff a couple weeks ago that I really couldn't take seriously. And now we have a guy that I've respected because he was one of the baddest MFs in all of basketball history. Nobody wanted to mess with him. No one wanted to fight him. And it was Charles Oakley. He was on the No Pump Fakes podcast this week. And he was talking about how he views the era of basketball today. And the most one of the most primary players in the league is Giannis Antetokounmpo. This is what he said about Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Refreshing to see Giannis Antetokounmpo. Guys are like, yo, I can't be buddy because he kind of brings that old school mentality, that old school feel back into this NBA.
He doing his thing, man. I mean, I was like skeptical because he couldn't make a jump shot free throw, but after what he did last year, he won me over. I was, because I know he was like he wouldn't have been a force back in the days. That's
Would or not?
He wouldn't have been a force.
Why is that?
He would have struggled because they was making 2 jump shots, and he wasn't be doing no Euro to the basket like he doing Euro step to the basket and just get layup. No, somebody gonna knock his head off. I mean, I'm glad he doing what he doing now, but he definitely wouldn't. He wouldn't come on the bench back in the days.
Yo, come on.
That's kind of heavy.
Come on. The first time I was like, maybe. Two-time MVP coming off the bench, Giannis? I don't know about that, Charles.
Giannis as a 6 man is kind of heavy.
I don't know about with his speed. I mean, he's 6'10", 280, can run like a gazelle.
Yeah, and that's nothing. He's not skinny. He's
muscle though. He's taking the protein mix. Yeah, some muscle.
I have to stop it there. I don't want to be the guy that disrespects players of the past, just like players of the past be disrespecting players of today, like Charles Oakley is doing with Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I don't think Charles Oakley is one of those guys that says things to sensationalize or get clicks, because that's just not his way. He's not from that era. I believe Charles Oakley truly believes that. I truly believe he thinks that Giannis Antetokounmpo would be a backup role player in yesteryear's basketball. So what I did is I went and looked up Charles Oakley's career. He was drafted in the 1985-86 season. So I went and looked up the NBA's All-Star centers from that year, and it was 38-year-old Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who we all know was one of the greatest players to ever live, but he was 38 years old, who averaged 23 points and 6 rebounds per game on 56% shooting that season, which is incredible. Yeah. And then it was on the other side, it was the 30-year-old Moses Malone, who averaged 24 and 12 per game on 46% shooting. Again, really good. At 30 years old, that's no matter what area you play in. If you're averaging 24 and 12 on 46% shooting, you're doing well. Giannis currently is averaging 29 points and 12 rebounds on 54% shooting, and he just won MVP and was the back-to-back MVP and just won his NBA championship as an NBA Finals MVP as well, by the way. Those were the 2 starting centers for All-Star games back then, and neither one of them were better than Giannis Antetokounmpo at that stage of their career that Giannis Antetokounmpo is right now. I also went and looked up their sizes. Both of them weighed less than Giannis does right now, and only Kareem is taller than Giannis by an inch. Oh, and I love how Charles Oakley said they would have forced him to shoot jump shots, when not only was his era, the 80s and 90s, not known for jump shooting, it was more about rim protecting and rim attacking, but neither Kareem or Moses Malone were good jump shooters. In fact, Kareem is known for what? The skyhook. A shot that's about 7 to 10 feet away from the bucket, and it's not a jump shot. It's a skyhook. Moses Malone was known for what? Getting to the bucket and rebounding. Things that Giannis Antetokounmpo is really good at. What in the hell is Charles Oakley talking about? This is what revisionist history is, a poison. It's a toxin. Because what it does is it romanticizes things that aren't true. Because in one breath, we're talking about Michael Jordan being the greatest player of all time because he played in that era of roughnecks, right? Michael Jordan wasn't the quintessential greatest jump shooter of all time. He had a great mid-range, but he was a guard. That's understandable. Guards shoot. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a center, no matter what scenario or what era he plays in. 6'11", 265-pound man that runs like a guard, that can dribble, that can create his own shot, doesn't shoot a lot, but he's also a great defender. And that is what Charles Oakley just completely avoided, is the fact that Giannis Antetokounmpo is almost a perennial first NBA All-Team defender.
Right.
He's always in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. And again, it's more credit to him to fit in an era of 20, 30 years ago when he can't shoot, because that's an era he would have fit in better. It actually is more praise to Giannis that he's as great as he is as a scorer in today's NBA when he's not a shooter. It's more of a praise to him. It doesn't shock anybody that Steph Curry and other great players like James Harden and Kevin Durant and LeBron James can score like Giannis because they can shoot, unlike Giannis. But for him to be able to be essentially a throwback player and play to the level he does in today's NBA when he doesn't translate naturally is high praise to him. Charles, you're tripping, bro. I don't know what in the world has gone on with you and Tracy McGrady and these other old heads, but y'all gotta chill, man. Because these are bad takes. These are irresponsible takes. Because guys like you are ambassadors of the game, and we need you to lift these guys up and praise them like Isaiah Thomas does. You may not agree with what Isaiah Thomas says, but he lifts these guys up and talks about how the league is so much better than it was back when he played, because it is.
The talent is insane.
The talent is insane. We just talked about this a little bit ago about how we've never, ever seen a 37-year-old average almost 30 points per game in a season, while in the same time a 22-year-old guy in Luka Doncic and Ja Morant are doing the things they're doing. And then in the middle, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's right in between them age-wise, is winning MVPs in NBA Finals. We've never seen the league this versatile. We've never seen the league this skilled. And how dare guys like Charles Oakley, who was a role player at best in himself, who was more known for throwing punches than making buckets, can sit here and discredit what Giannis Antetokounmpo is doing. It's baffling and it's bullshit. So for that, go ahead, Trevor.
No, I just want to say one thing. The question that immediately came to my mind when I heard that ridiculous quote, who would be a force to it? If Giannis is not going to be a force in today's age, out of any player, if Giannis isn't going to be a force in your era, who does he even think anyone in this league could hang with anybody, Ben?
And if he says
that's like the epitome of a force.
Yeah, he says that someone would knock his block off. Who? Who's knocking his block off?
So, who does he think is good today, then?
Well, yeah, outside of maybe Hakeem Olajuwon, who was at his size and structure that could play as athletically as Giannis can?
Yeah.
Nobody. Shaq. That's why Shaq stood out so much in the 90s, because no one could play like Shaq.
Right.
You're going to tell me Shaq wouldn't have been great in 1985? Give me a freaking break, man.
man.
This is absurdity. Giannis is one of the greatest big men we've ever seen in the NBA, and he's just now in his prime.
Big men are so far more versatile nowadays, bro.
You know what?
The Joel Embiid's, you have to have point guard attributes nowadays to be a big.
We hear these old guys talk about how they're soft today. No, y'all are soft. Because
mentally,
you'll have to sit here and discredit others to make yourselves look better. That's the epitome of soft. That's the epitome of insecure. You don't hear Giannis and LeBron talking down about dudes 30 years ago. No, they praise them.
Absolutely.
How about you take some example, or you learn some things from the guys that you should be leading?
Humility, man.
In the meantime, you do me a solid on us at the Spoken Podcast and hold this L. I'm sorry you guys didn't see Eddie to finish off the show. He had to run out to Sporting Park and go watch Sporting KC play. Our guy Harold Kuntz is going to be out there as well. And by the way, I want to thank our guy Harold Kuntz from Fox 4 for being here today and giving us a great show and giving us great content. Can't wait to see what the Chiefs are going to do this offseason. There's a lot of moves to make, and we try to give you guys our thoughts as currently constructed. But in the meantime, for Mr. Yo Eddie Ortiz, who had a bail, for our guy Trevor Twidwell, for the great Clay Windler who puts all this together, for the great Harold Kuntz that puts all this together, and of course, let me move my mic real quick, Big Charlie Saloon out there in South Philly. We love you guys. You're our family. We can't thank you enough for what you guys do for us and the support you show us, sending us this great merch. I promise you guys I will be getting more from you guys, and we will be out there in Philadelphia soon enough to hang out with you guys in Arrowhead East. We love you guys so much. I am Lance Twidwell. Episode 157 of the Spoken Podcast is done, finished, and finito. And until we're back here for 158 in a week's time from now, we out of this bitch. See y'all.